Learn it from the best. I'm talking granny.
Hello and welcome to Sci-Fi on Trial. Yay! I'm your host, Jesse Mercury, and joining us from our Star Wars Club, we have Jenny Krantz. Hello, Jenny. Thank you for being here. And joining us from the original Sci-Fi on Trial podcast, as well as Jenny, we have Ryan Casey. What's up, Ryan?
Me? Hi.
So Ryan was a part of every single Sci-Fi on Trial podcast back when this was a podcast, and we're very excited to bring it to your screens as a live stream for the first time. And speaking of first times, joining us for the first time on this channel, we have Miko Wan. Welcome, Miko.
Hello.
Miko is a huge Star Wars nerd, and we're so excited to talk to him. Miko, you're in the UK right now, which is blowing my mind.
I am. It is currently 2:30 in the morning, and I cannot be happier to be here, actually.
Yeah, when you agreed to do this at 2:30 in the morning, I was super shocked.
Anything for Star Wars. Anything for Star Wars.
Yeah.
We've got Sam in the chat. What's up, Sam? Sorry I startled you with the music. So today we're going to put the Phantom Menace on trial. We're going to find out once and for all just how good or how bad this movie is. I've put together a whole bunch of polls that we're going to take throughout this evening, and we're going to average all of our numbers together. We're going to be scientific about this, figure out exactly how good or bad this movie is. So to kick off the trial with our opening arguments, I thought it'd be fun to go around the room and ask everyone what you think the rating of this movie should be on a scale of 1 to 10. And whoever gets closest to the rating that we determine at the end is the winner, and you win nothing. You win you win imaginary Force Cola that raises your M count. So for everyone in the chat as well, I'm about to drop a link in the chat so you can vote as well. And then we're going to average the chat together. So let's start with Jenny. Jenny, what do you think this movie should be rated on a scale of 1 to 10?
So I was surprised. I'll bet I rated this higher than I would have a couple years ago when we did something like that. And I actually raised my ratings for the scenes that we're going to go through, and they actually matched up with what I thought of off the top of my head before I did that, which is a 6. I gave it a 6 out of 10. So
yeah, 6 out of 10. So there's like stuff you like, stuff you don't like.
I figure a 5 would be an F, right? 50%. I didn't want to fail it, but yeah, I gave it a 6.
What about you, Miko?
I was gonna say 5 out of 10, but I think I might have to go with 6 out of 10 too. Just based on our discussion earlier before we started.
Yeah.
We started.
What about you, Ryan?
Yeah.
What about you? I feel similar. I think I'd go 7. I think I'd go even just slightly higher. I was thinking 7.
Okay.
It's got some bad spots, but it's still a Star Wars movie, and yeah, I think nostalgia for it. The older it gets, kind of the better the good parts they get, and the more glaring the bad parts get. Yeah.
Justin in chat seems very upset by a 7. But Justin, click that link and you can vote, and your vote will count. Okay, so Ryan's giving it a 7. I was gonna give it a 6. I'm gonna stick with a 6. I'm gonna give it a 5.8. I want to be a little lower, because I feel like there is some really great stuff in this movie, but there's some really bad acting, bad directing, bad dialogue, and there's some sections that are boring. And there's some things that happen, like as a lifelong Star Wars fan, when I first saw it, I was like, wow, that's very upsetting to me. But as an adult coming back to it, having seen the Clone Wars and Rebels and now the Mandalorian, the way that they've woven in the canon from this movie is awesome. And you can't watch Rebels and Clone Wars without being like a massive Darth Maul fan, which I now am. And I mean, Maul is amazing in this movie.
Yeah.
And then like the whole like midi-chlorian debate and the fact that the Jedi Order seems to be kind of shitty, and that was a little disappointing. But all that seemed unintentional to me as a kid, like unintentionally bad. But now as an adult, I'm like, no, that was on purpose. You know, the Jedi Order was supposed to be kind of messed up and failing, and the Republic is supposed to be kind of messed up and failing. And that's how Sidious is able to kind of come in and take power. And I love Palpatine, the Palpatine Sidious thing. I think it's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I definitely think
I've talked myself up. I'm going up to a 6.2. I'm going up to a 6.2.
Yeah. Watching Clone Wars and Rebels, but especially Clone Wars, definitely enhance this movie. It's really interesting. Like, I can't think of another movie like that I hated, and then another movie about the same thing made me like it more. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the results from chat are in, and let me average this together. Chat does not like this movie.
Well,
let's see.
It's like me and gets a sort of sick joy out of things being sort of fucked up and bad in a fun way.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, liking something because it's bad in a fun way is totally fair. So chat's average is 3. Chat gave this movie a 3.
Ooh.
Okay, is that for like a rating just Star Wars movies, or is that like the scope of film as we know it? Because it's too low if it is.
They're voting their heart. Someone voted a 1, so someone really skewed it down low.
It's not that bad of a movie, a general movie.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna find out. So that's just our preliminary voting. Chat was real low there. And then we're going to go through this movie in excruciating detail. We're going to vote on everything all the way through the movie. I've broken it up into 7 sections for us to vote on. So every section of the movie, we're going to stop and vote. And we're going to find out, does the bad outweigh the good? We're going to figure it out. Sam asks in chat, way too much politics and bad dialogue and midi-chlorians versus Duel of the Fates. Does it balance out? That is the question. That's the question we're going to try to answer today.
I really was trying to go into this with a more positive mindset, mainly because I feel like bashing this movie and my hatred of this movie has almost become a part of my personality. Like, I can't tell you how many like drunk conversations in bars I've gotten to over the years talking about bashing this film and my reaction to it. I think I just, I was really trying to look at it with a different mindset, and again, especially given the context I have from the Clone Wars now, and I think my brain is like the shitty dialogue, the awkward characters, like my brain is filling in some of that from what I know of these characters now because of Clone Wars, and I kind of just wanted to, look, again, you can never, it's really hard to say this is a good movie, but I really was trying to find and hold on to the things that I love about it and give it another chance, because I don't want to go to the dark side. I feel like my anger and my hate over this movie is just, I don't know. And
it only leads to suffering. So
exactly.
Or boredom. I mean, there's some boring parts of this movie.
Yeah.
Boredom is not the dark side, I will say. Yeah, it's Miko and I were talking about this right before the stream started, that this is the purest George Lucas Star Wars that exists, Like, this was made in a vacuum. Like George Lucas made this movie in a vacuum. He had no one telling him what to do. It's just, this is exactly what he thought Star Wars should be. And that's kind of amazing, considering that this man created the biggest franchise in the history of the world, something that changed all of our lives, made some of the best movies ever made, and then goes into a vacuum after having so much success and comes back 20 years later with episode 1. And, episodes 2 and 3, he had some like fan response, so he was able to pivot a little bit. Episode 1, he had no fan response at all. Like, this is the purest Star Wars that.
He waited so long. I think maybe a little nervous, but when I watch this movie, I can like see him sort of writing it on his little yellow pad in that office.
Yeah.
And just going like, yeah.
Oh, this is gonna be
This is
great.
great.
You're gonna love this.
Yeah, I just see
That's
him
why
like
my
going
brother-
like, this
my
is it,
brother-
man. Like this is what the Jedi were really like. We're gonna surprise everyone, you know. Sorry, what were you saying, Jenny?
My brother met George Lucas at his restaurant one time in Orange County. My brother is a server, and George Lucas was at his table. My brother's like pretty bold, and he said that he just told him, he's like, you know, I liked the prequels. And he said George Lucas just looks at him and goes, so did I. Like, so did I. But he said it was like really sweet. Like this just kind of like
Yeah.
I thought it was so funny. My brother said that to him. I liked the prequels.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean
but
the
yeah,
ambition. The ambition in this movie is insane. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I feel like the ambition outreached, you know, the acting and the performances, and it really outreached the experience of watching it. I feel like the experience of being a viewer and watching a movie was not at the forefront of the mind of the creator. It was like, I'm going to tell the most epic story ever. We're going to show you the most epic visuals ever. But he wasn't thinking about like, oh, you have to like the characters and you have to be able to follow the plot and like have a good time in the theater.
Yeah, I think
don't
he just
know. I
got
don't know
really
if I agree.
lost.
You don't agree with that, Ryan?
No, I think he knows he's making a movie. I think there are times where it's good enough that I get lost in it. I just think that like he makes some big choices and some of them just really don't work. That they stand out, I think. But I don't know. Yeah. I can break, you know, I have thoughts about individual things in it. I don't want to get ahead of
Well, let's get into it. Let's start. We're going to start with the opening sequence of the movie. So this is hold on, I got a cheat sheet for myself here. So we're going to talk about the title crawl, and then we're going to talk about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan on the Trade Federation ship. They're going to meet with the Trade Federation, but then they get attacked and they have to escape. So that's the opening sequence of the film. And I actually pulled up the title crawl so we could read this and talk about this. Turmoil has engulfed the Galactic Republic. The taxation of trade routes to outlying star systems is in dispute. Hoping to resolve the matter with a blockade of deadly battleships, the greedy Trade Federation has stopped all shipping to the small planet of Naboo. While the Congress of the Republic endlessly debates this alarming chain of events, the Supreme Chancellor has secretly dispatched 2 Jedi Knights, the guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy, to settle the conflict. ... So, the opening title of the Star Wars movie is iconic. It's so important, and it sets the stage for the film to come. And I actually feel like this does an extremely good job of setting the stage, because there's like cool sentences and then sentences of like, wait, what? No. Like it starts out like turmoil has engulfed the Galactic Republic, and like, oh no. And then the taxation of trade routes is to outlying star systems is in dispute. And I'm like, oh no, I don't, that's not the type of turmoil that I want. Then you get like, hoping to resolve the matter with a blockade of deadly battleships. Ooh, that sounds good. The greedy Trade Federation has stopped all shipping to the small planet of Naboo. It's like, nope, that's not good.
Bad. That's good.
Yeah, like this encapsulates the viewing experience of the movie to me. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, every other part is good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the movie. Every other
It's
part
really-
is good.
Yeah, it's like boring, and then exactly how you described it. It's kind of like, huh, what?
Yeah,
Oh,
just
huh?
thrilling, and then okay, a moment of just like, okay, I'll just go to the bathroom and skip this part, and
Gotta go to the bathroom, and then the boring parts make the fun parts really pop.
Yeah. Like if you're watching this casually, you come in and out of it like you're watching, you know, Love Island or something, you're really going to enjoy yourself. But if you're like really paying attention, like if you're West Winging this thing and you're like really focused in, you're going to be a little disappointed.
You would say there's nothing in this that is like it as bad as like later in this trilogy when they're like at that lake house and stuff. There are worse parts. There are more boring and worse parts that like are not in this movie. This movie is long, and I did stop it a couple times, and I was at like a half hour. I was like, all right, half hour to go. But like, it's still, I think it mostly stays fun.
I mean, my latest watch through, I had to stop. I like had 40 minutes left. I had to stop and take a break because it's a little exhausting. Like to me, I mean, I remember I saw this in the theater 4 times as a kid. And I remember by the fourth time, I was like itching to get out of my seat because it was just long, you know?
But like the title crawls are always kind of dumb, and I feel like they do set the stage. They're sort of like, I'm in a weird place, and here's what's happening. But they don't really tell you anything you need to know, really. And this one, I think, just does the same bad job.
Yeah, for me, this one is setting the stage for a part of the story that, to me, doesn't feel like where episode 1, where I would expect it to start, you know? This really feels like a prologue. This is like episode 0. I feel like, you know, the very end of this movie is kind of what I wanted from episode 1, which is like a really badass lightsaber fight, you know, finding out that Anakin's going to be trained by Obi-Wan. Like, the end of the movie kind of feels like more like Star Wars, but there's a lot of prologue to get there. And I like the second and third movie talking about the Separatists and the Clone Wars, like that feels much more Star Wars, but the Trade Federation is like the prologue to the prologue, you know?
Yeah, you could have this whole movie could have just been like the first paragraph in the opening scroll to Attack of the Clones. Like,
yeah.
They didn't even need to make the movie. Like, just give quick so that there was a trade dispute. This is where they met. Yeah. You know, Anakin Skywalker was found on Tatooine, adopted by and here we go.
I like it. This is a meta movie. This is like, it's a crawl inside of a crawl.
Yeah.
Like, we're going into the crawl, and that's what this whole...
Yeah.
I like thinking of it like that.
Jesse, I'm surprised you saw it 4 times in the theater. Like, I remember seeing it, I saw it once, and it was like, I practically went home and like, put all my Star Wars stuff in a suitcase and shoved it under my bed. Like, well, I'm joking. I'm exaggerating. But I mean, that's like, it almost like reading the scroll was almost like, I'll never forget sitting in the theater. And one of my favorite things actually that I noticed is one of the very first lines is, I've got a bad feeling about this. And that is like literally how I felt even from the opening scroll, and the opening scene was just, I've got a bad feeling about this. Like, yeah, but it was interesting watching it now again with more context. Like, there a lot of the scenes that I remember specifically hating and picking apart are things that don't bother me anymore at all. Just again with perspective and with the whole universe. And there's definitely a lot of things. I think I just couldn't appreciate any of it when I first saw it. Like, I was just so mad at everything that there was nothing that I liked about it walking out of that theater. Like, I just remember like just being completely crestfallen. Like,
yeah, it took me a minute.
I actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, the first time I saw it, I was like shell shocked. I was, you know, reading Star Wars Insider magazine. I was like super prepped for watching the movie. I skipped school that day to go to the movie theater with like a bunch of other friends. My parents like chaperoned this truant group of children who wanted to see Star Wars. And it took me until my 4th viewing to be like, this isn't fun to watch over and over the way the original trilogy is. And that was kind of my barometer at the time. Is like, the original trilogy was just fun, and I watched them over and over, and I loved them to death. And one of the things that I really wanted to see was like Jedi in action, and we do get some of that in the opening sequence. I actually think the opening sequence is kind of cool. You know, like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan on the Trade Federation ship. We get to see some of their cool force powers. We get some lightsaber cutting through the blast doors. We see them like move really quickly that we only see once.
Yes, I was watching it. My roommate, and I was like, "Oh, that part's pretty cool. They move real fast." And he's like, "Yeah," and then they never do that again.
Ever, yeah.
No one,
yeah,
no Jedis ever do that ever again. But both of them can do it really good. Seems useful. Yeah.
That moment was like the most important moment of the whole, like 9 movies. Because if they don't move real quick right there, they're dead. And there was some weird like blip in the Force that allowed them to move real fast just once. Like they used that ability and then they exhausted it. It was like a consumable item. They could never do it again.
Seemed like they were in minimal danger. They were just like, "Oh, this is kind of a standoff. Let's split."
Yeah.
Go fast down just that hall.
I feel like the talk about like be mindful of the living Force is really cool. And like getting some of like Obi-Wan as the apprentice is really cool. What do you guys think about this stuff? What do you think, Nico?
Well, see, the thing is, it's so interesting to hear you guys talk about, your love for the original trilogy, and sort of bringing that into the viewing of this particular movie. For me, the prequels, I pretty much had them all in one sitting. So
Mhm.
like, I didn't have all of that extra nostalgia and baggage, I guess the word is, that you guys might have. And so I remember, uh, I actually thought that I was so confused because there was like episodes 4 and 5 were made first, but then they made episodes 1, 2, and 3, and I remember that confusing me as a kid. And I actually thought that Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon were in episode 2. Like, I thought that Obi-Wan was Qui-Gon and Anakin was Obi-Wan, and like it was a weird sort of thing. And with, kind of, looking back at it now, it was cool. For me, it was cool to see Obi-Wan as sort of like the young apprentice, sort of arrogant, and I don't know. It was it's very interesting to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Obi-Wan's arrogance, there is this sense in the opening sequence that Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon feel like they are superior to the Nemoidians, to the Trade Federation. And this is throughout the movie. They talk down, especially Obi-Wan, like talks down about Anakin and about Jar Jar, like, useless creatures, he calls them, or something like that. And as a kid, I was like, no, this is horrible. Like, the Jedi are supposed to be kind and empathetic, and they're not. They're, elitist, superior jerks. But then I do like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in the movie. Like, when Qui-Gon dies at the end, I'm devastated. But I was also like a little bit devastated by the portrayal of the Jedi in this movie as a whole, as a kid. And now as an adult, I'm like, no, that's intentional. Like, the Jedi are, when people were talking about how like the Jedi are, think that they're so great and so superior, like that's real, like the Jedi have kind of lost their way. And that is why Sidious is able to kind of swoop in and blind them to the fact that he's been amongst them for decades, kind of trying to create conflict so that he can take power. So knowing that's intentional, I enjoy it more now because I can see the subtlety of that. But as a kid, I don't know what subtlety is. I'm just like, the Jedi are supposed to be the heroes and they're not acting all that heroic sometimes. And it really confused me and really bothered me as a kid.
They're sitting around in a circle judging people.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I remember too, one of my great letdowns was because I really loved Liam Neeson. Like, I'm a big fan of his, and I was very just kind of let down by Qui-Gon's character the first time I saw it. But on this round, like, he's very much grown on me. And Jesse, another book, I don't know if you have this one yet, that I want to read next is called Master and Apprentice. I've been hearing a lot of good things about.
It's on my list.
I read that book and it's incredible.
Oh, cool.
It really,
that's what I've heard.
It really forms this you really get a really cool insight on Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon's relationship, and it's I can't recommend it enough. It's really, really good.
Nice.
That's what I heard, and I want to order that and read, because for me, reading stuff like that, these books, all these extended materials and whatnot, again, are kind of enhancing these characters, because I kind of like, my brain is just kind of filling in the blanks that I felt like I was missing on the first round. Like, this time, I don't know, like, I appreciated Qui-Gon's, he's a little bit like a hippie, like, kind of like nature man, like, chill, and like a little bit of an outsider from the council, and he has got just kind of a really softness to him. There is kind of kindness. I don't know. I really enjoyed watching Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon together, even though, like, I love Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith is my absolute favorite, but he's still, I feel like he's still, like, Ewan McGregor is still just figuring out, like, I don't know, like, even just where to look or how to, like, act in this kind of digital environment that was so new to them. He doesn't quite have his footing as Obi-Wan. Like, I feel like he's just a little, I just don't remember, like, really relating or having any, like, connection to him. But yeah, but again, just now knowing what I know, I liked seeing them on screen together a lot more.
Yeah.
He's sort of on the bench for like the whole middle part of this movie, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's stuck on the ship, and Qui-Gon goes into town with Padme. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is weird. I didn't remember that part, that he was just like gone that whole
He just gets calls every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check this blood.
Has to do an M count.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I've made a poll for us to vote on the opening sequence of the movie, so I'm sharing that in chat right now.
Is that just through, what's the opening part through? Just the crawl and
Title crawl, and then basically
so
everything that happens before they get to Naboo, right? Like,
yes, exactly. So we're going to rate the opening crawl and the opening sequence.
Something I do like from the opening part is that ship's cool. Then they blow up, and when it blows up, it looks cool.
Yeah, I mean when that ship blows up and then Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan sense it immediately and stand up, like that's what I want from the Jedi. It's like they're aware of what's happening around them. They're aware of what's happening to their friends.
They can hold their breath long.
Yeah, they can. Dioxis. Yeah, they can hold their breath for a really long time. And there's some cool like battle stuff. I like watching them escape. I am a little bothered by the portrayal of the Nemoidians.
Yeah. This movie I felt was really galactic stereotypes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were all over the place. And watching it, my most recent watch of this movie is like, ooh, this is not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just, it's like 3 different aliens that are all sort of like racial stereotypes, and it's really uncomfortable.
Exaggerated, obvious racial stereotypes.
And they're also really all presented as either like bad guys or slave owners or kind of like not so intelligent. And it's like, what, you gotta be white with long, luxurious hair to get by in this galaxy? What is this, Earth?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that does so. Okay, let's get. I'm gonna get into rating this thing. Okay, so you can rate the opening, the title crawl. The title crawl to me is like, it's like the movie as a whole. It's like back and forth, good and bad. So for me, it's like a 6. But everyone in chat and everyone on screen, everyone can pick their own numbers, and then we're gonna be able to average everything together. And then the opening sequence, I really like a lot of it, but I'm so bothered by the portrayal of the Nemoidians. I'm disturbed that there's like Jedi that don't seem as good as I would hope, and it kind of goes uncommented on. But there's like great action and really interesting thoughts about the Force, and I just remember being like 13 or whatever I was and just being so excited during this opening sequence. So I'm going to give it a 6 as well. I think the whole thing for me is a 6. What about you guys?
I gave it a 4. I
give it a 7. Oh, go. Sorry, Jenny.
Oh, I gave it a 4. I think I don't know that I'll ever be able to detach completely from the physical like feeling that I remember sitting in the theater in that opening, like from the very beginning. I wasn't excited about the first scene. I liked it more this time, and I almost raised it a little bit to the 5 because there are some good action sequences, but it's so meh for a Star Wars movie that I give it a 4.
Jenny, did you fill out the poll? Did you rate on the opening titles and the opening sequence?
Oh, no, I didn't do it on the official poll.
Yeah, you better do it.
Oh, yeah.
You want those numbers to count. What about you, Ryan?
Just are we doing that whole section? I didn't know we were supposed to. I must have missed the.
Yeah, I dropped it in chat. You can vote.
I would give the whole.
Yes, you can vote once on the title crawl just because I feel like that's important, and then once on the whole opening sequence.
Okay, cool. Let me see. I'm trying to figure out where it is. There you go, baby. I would say title crawl, 5 out of 10. I would say this first section as a whole, it's not that bad. The Nemoidians, that is a hint that things might go awry. Maybe the title crawl slightly too. that's the Phantom Menace in this opening section. Those guys' voices. I would say, but it's yeah, it's not that it's not bad. It's 6 out of 10.
Nice. What about you, Miko?
I said 7 only because lightsaber action gets me every time, and so I think, 7 out of 10, just because of the action was really cool, and barring the terrible Nemoidian voices. 7 out of 10.
Nice. And did
No,
you
I
rate
wanted to give mine a 7.
Did you do both questions? There's the title crawl as well.
Title crawl. I said 9 out of 10 because I didn't really think of it that way before, of the fact that it actually encapsulates like how the movie is in terms of like, oh, this is gonna, oh, okay, oh, yeah, 9 out of 10, just purely because of that reason alone.
Nice. All right, has everyone voted? Shall we check our responses?
Let's do it.
I don't know where to do it.
Okay. So I'm going to average
I don't
these
know where the
together.
track is.
All right, we got a lot of numbers here. This is awesome. Okay,
Where
insert.
are you all seeing this? I don't understand.
A link in the chat box.
Okay, we have
That's
a
the
final
most recent link.
we have a final score for the entire opening sequence, including the title crawl, of 5.8.
Ooh.
So chat ranged from a 1 to a 9, including the panelists as well, and we're at a 5.8.
Are you guys? Is someone just voting ones across the board?
That is their right.
That's fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the next section, which is, so I broke down the movie into 7 sections, and it's mostly based off of which planet the action takes place on. So after the opening sequence, we go to the planet of Naboo, and a bunch of things happen. We're just going to look at everything that happens on Naboo. And here's the breakdown. So we meet Padme. We see the invasion of Naboo by the Trade Federation. We meet Jar Jar Binks, who takes us to Gunga City. And then after Gunga City, we have the underwater ride on the Bongo, where there's that scene. There's always a bigger fish scene where they get attacked by larger and larger creatures. The Jedi make it to Theed, which is the capital city of Naboo. They rescue the Queen. They escape Naboo with the help of a familiar-looking droid, the great Mr. R2-D2. And then to end out the sequence, a mysterious cloaked figure that we know to be Darth Sidious sends Darth Maul after the Jedi. So that's what we're looking at next, is that whole sequence that takes place around Naboo. So what do you guys think of this section? Let's start with Jenny.
Yeah, I mean, what did I get? I mean, I gave it a 5 because I'm giving it points because the underwater scenes are really beautiful, and I don't think I gave them enough credit when I watched it the first time at just how gorgeous Naboo is, and I love everything about the city above the lake, the kind of Italian country. I think it was filmed in Lake Como or something. And then that scene where they're swimming down below, and I don't even remember what the creatures are called, but they're little these like gold lantern looking bubble houses underneath the water. Really beautiful. And I gave a point just because we get to see Darth Maul for the first time, and he's become such a favorite character of mine as well. So I gave it extra points for that. But then it just, the cringy dialogue, like, I still can't get over that they had Jar Jar quote Michelle Tanner from Full House. How rude!
How rude!
I still can't process that. And another line, something about you step and doo-doo, like, just the dialogue is like, ugh. So, yeah, I gave it a 5, but the visuals are really cool.
What about you, Mika?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with I might have to even go lower because this is one of those sequences that was kind of boring for me. And I do appreciate the visual aspect of the underwater city but overall, it was just so this is one of those sort of dipping moments for me. Just because not a lot happens. I remember watching it as a kid, and again, just waiting for the lightsabers to just to come out. But even watching it now, it's like, okay, let's get through this. Let's get through this slow plot point. Yeah. So, uh, yeah, 4 out of 10 for me.
Yeah. And since we're throwing out numbers, I'm going to give you the next section if you guys want to cast your ballots. There's a link in the chat. And yeah, this is just voting on this whole Naboo section out of 10. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, it's bad. It's Jar Jar Binks. It's bad. This is another time where, yeah, I agree. I feel like George Lucas thinks he's being really funny when he wrote all those weird lines and this like weird dialect that the Gungans and especially Jar Jar speak. It's not no one else does anything like this where they just use weird other English words. I guess it makes sense maybe that it's like basic adjacent. But yeah, I feel like he thinks it's so funny, and I feel like at no point did he think it was not funny, and I think no one wants to tell your boss
stood up
that
to him to tell
they're
him
not funny. Yeah, that's like the hardest thing to check someone on is like their sense of humor. If they're like he's so, it's like, and it's just too much. Like I feel like if he had toned it down, if he had like brought any of the sliders on Jar Jar, whether goofy the animation is, how weird he actually looks, how silly the written dialogue is, and then how really big and totally fine like the performance makes sense for this weird creation, but it's all like turned up to like 12, and it's just, you're just like, what the fuck is happening? Like, yeah, it doesn't make sense that it exists. But I feel like there's other parts where his sense of humor like does work, and goofy aliens do work. Like if you just took like the whole like pod race section, all those guys look goofy as hell. There's some pretty broad comedic stuff. There's like little Three Stooges droids, but like you don't have to like live with that character for a whole scene. And this section is the most Jar Jar you get. It's like, it's all him in that stupid submarine, and I don't care that it looks good. The city kind of looks good, and even the other Gungans aren't as obnoxious. Like, I love Boss Nass. Boss Nass is my boy. Brian Blessing, that actor, like he kills it, and it's really broad too. It's a little, but it is like just a little slightly like pulled back. It's like not quite as dumb. And then like every scene you get is just Jar Jar in the corner, like doing something like huge. Yeah. And yeah, that's why this part sucks. And it's like 3 out of 10, I'd say.
Wow.
Parts of the movie.
Yeah, this
But
section.
it's like how they scaled him back in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. Like they did what you said. They kind of turned the dials down, cut his screen time a bit.
And he's not basically in the rest of this trilogy, I feel like.
Yeah. It just, what sucks is, if you ever listened to an interview, I was watching this interview with Ahmed Best, who played Jar Jar. It is heartbreaking. He literally was like, I was standing on like the edge of a bridge. Like, he was suicidal from this. He's like, imagine like the best news of your life that you're gonna be in Star Wars, and as a budding actor thinking how many doors, and imagining how many doors this is gonna open, And then him being Jar Jar and just being the most despised character in all of, and just having his career completely ruined and I mean, it is just like heartbreaking, and yet I can't come to any other, like, as much as I'm trying to put like a positive spin on this movie, I can't with Jar Jar. He's just as bad as I remember, and I hate like everything about him, and it sucks. But it's not the actor.
It's not his fault. He's
It's
doing his
George-
job.
But
And now he's like
he was
hosting
taking
that.
the cues. Was it probably faster and more intense, or faster with more intensity? George Lucas's line.
Yeah.
It does make me really happy that Ahmed Best is hosting that Legends of the Hidden Temple style kids show in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
It's that show's adorable.
Oh, is he?
I watched a little bit of it. It was awesome. But yeah, I mean, and no, none of this is the actor's fault. And this is a situation where I feel like we really needed an editor, and someone to like point out to George Lucas that there is a issue with the portrayal of Jar Jar, that it is, there is some racial insensitivity in the portrayal, the portrayal of Jar Jar. And it's hard. Like, it's hard to watch. It's a little upsetting, but at the same time, he's also like such a sweetheart. Like Jar Jar Binks has a beautiful soul, the soul of a child.
He's kind of wholesome.
Yeah.
He kind of is
Yes.
just this really wholesome character that you hate him, but you also are like, okay, he's just trying his best.
Right. And I wish that he was treated better. It's not Jar Jar that bothers me as much as the way that Jar Jar is kind of referred to and talked about in universe by the Jedi, like they talk about it like he's, subhuman. And there's like this this issue with like the Naboo and the Gungans, where the Naboo feel like, or the Gungans feel like the Naboo think that they're better than them. And none of that's really explored except for the weird portrayal that is kind of problematic. And the whole thing is just a little bit upsetting. And also, he's very annoying. Like, let's not forget that Jar Jar Binks is very annoying. But also, like, he is the first fully CG animated character in a movie that's a main character. And the technological achievement of that is really remarkable. And even going back and watching it now, there's moments where he's walking around in the foliage. And it's like, man, they just matched the lighting, the way that the light speckles through the trees onto his body, like so beautifully well. And then like when you dive underwater and you're going to Gunga City, it's like, this is gorgeous. It's really amazing. And it's the type of like alien vista that we've never seen before. But then it's also annoying. And then Boss Nass is like, and I'm like, why are you doing that? And I don't know. It's
something they do.
This is something to do.
It's a Gungan thing, man.
Yeah.
You don't get it.
I don't.
Pave the way for others.
Oh, Jenny froze.
Oh, Jenny, you're frozen.
Oh yeah. Can you hear me now?
We can. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I didn't say anything after that. You guys all froze, so I wasn't sure what happened. Yeah, no, I just said he's one of those moments, I guess. I mean, a lot of this movie, like, I try and look at it from that perspective, that he, for all of its flaws, I mean, the technology, like, he was practicing and playing around with a lot of technology that has come to define and, make it so we have a lot of other really good movies. So.
Yeah, there's no Gollum in Lord of the Rings without Jar Jar Binks. There's no District 9, which is an incredible movie. There's no Maz Kanata, even though she was...
Ooh, that is a good movie.
She was a practical effect in episode 9, but in episode 7, she was
Raccoon.
fully CGI. Yeah, Rocket Raccoon. Groot. Yeah, we don't get any of it, without Jar Jar Binks. I mean, we probably get there eventually, let's be real. But
yeah,
but he was the first.
Movie, but but it makes sense that George Lucas was the one to pave the way. He invented, so many techniques for the originals, and then he did it again. And that's one thing he did again successfully. I mean, the digital effects, they bothered me at the time because I find them distracting because there's so much of it and it's a little detached from reality. But at the same time, again, if you look at it as like a learning and him just using a lot of this for the first time, I mean, credit where credit's due.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like this whole idea of a life debt, you know? Like, I never liked it that Chewbacca owed a life debt to Han Solo. And it's kind of weird that without this life debt situation, Jar Jar Binks would have been killed maybe by his people. It's kind of unclear. But, I mean, we come out of this scene with Jar Jar Binks owing a life debt to Qui-Gon Jinn. I mean, little did he know that it was literally going to be like 3 days and his life debt would be over because Qui-Gon would be dead. But, you know, as far as life debts go, he really lucked out.
You mean a life play? A life play with Hiss and Dissin? You having a life play with Hiss and Dissin?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's exactly what I mean.
Yes, I do.
Oh, Justin makes a good point.
Ugh.
Justin makes a good point in
yeah.
chat. Everything is way too clean. It doesn't match the used universe look he was shooting for in the originals. This is something else that has always bothered me, but now that I look at it in context, it's like the whole galaxy fell apart. You know, like the government of the galaxy fell apart, and getting resources became harder, and that's why things look different in 4, 5, and 6. And the Empire just like crushed freedom for like 30 years. 20 or 30 years or whatever. So, like it's harder to, you know, get a nice ship and people are using like thrift store stuff. So I actually like now I kind of like that, but at the time I hated it. As a kid, I was like, this drives me crazy. It's so clean. Like everything's so shiny. What's the deal? But now that I look at it differently, I kind of appreciate that.
I kind of look at it as like ancient Greece or something. And then when we, you know, during the A New Hope episode 4 and whatnot, it's kind of like the Dark Ages, like you said. But I did, when I first saw it, I had that same part where I was just like, I missed the like retro tech, like Star Wars universe looks lived in, used, old, and this was everything was sparkling. But I appreciate it in that context, like the colony, you know, like I was thinking of it as like a classical Antigua before, you know, everything was torn apart by war and you know, the damage from the Clone Wars.
What do you guys think about the scene that comes right after the stuff in Gunga City where it's like there's always a bigger fish? I hate this scene. This is one of my least favorite scenes in the movie. It's like, are you telling me that the fate of the universe rests on the fact that, you know, that like larger and larger creatures are eating the things that are chasing down Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and Jar Jar? I like the whole random chance element of it drives me crazy. And this is like a theme throughout the movie. It's like the whole final battle depends on random chance, and it's like really obnoxious. But this scene, I feel like just cut this scene out. The whole bongo ride, you know, cut the whole thing out.
I think you just gotta have faith in the living force. That's the chance.
Didn't really, thinking about it now, it didn't really add anything.
Yeah.
Other than maybe giving Jar Jar another chance to be Jar Jar.
Yeah, I felt like it was an excuse to have an action beat, but you know what? Watching it, like in the last couple of days when I just rewatched it, it occurred to me that the Trade Federation invades and takes control of Theed, the capital of Naboo. They capture the Queen, and all that happens off screen. Like, why wasn't that the action scene? Why are we getting eaten by larger and larger fish when we could have had, you know, the invasion of Naboo as our action scene? And it, like,
I mean, you know why? Because George Lucas, I feel like so much of his focus was on the CGI that he probably just did that scene because he wanted to film an impressive underwater that with a giant monster eating another little fish. Like, I don't know. I feel like it was showing, so much of this was just showing off the CGI that, I don't know. That's my theory. He just wanted to be able, he's like, no, this will be cool. I just want to do this. Yeah,
that's what it feels like. And that's kind of why it bothers me. It doesn't serve a story purpose. It's like a demonstration of visual techniques. And it actually, in my opinion, detracts from the story because it makes everything feel less believable and more random. Yeah. Okay, so the last part of Naboo is when we make it to Theed City, we rescue the Queen, we escape into the sky, R2-D2 saves the day. What do you guys make of all this stuff? Like R2 showing up out of nowhere, being the one to save the day. Was this exciting or was this contrived? What do you guys think? What do you think, Mika?
I've always found it kind of humorous that the fact that all the droids around R2 are destroyed, and like R2 is this single one that like, and of course, you know, it's R2-D2. You gotta give him that spotlight. But yeah, I don't know. Just the fact that all the droids were shot down, and R2 was the living survivor. I don't know. You know?
I think it's a weird thing that you don't ever. I don't think you up to this point had not seen astromech droids used in that way, where they're just like wheeling across the surface, this shiny flat surface and like being like, there's just like 6 of them. Hopefully, one of them will fix the problem, and the rest of them. So, like, anytime you use astromech droids, like, usually like 5 to 6 of them get blown up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems dumb.
It was. I never really loved the. I mean, R2 makes a little more sense. I hate how C3PO comes. Like, that felt so contrived to me.
Yeah.
My problem with R2 is just, well, again, seeing it the first time, I was just, what the hell? Like, Obi-Wan literally says, like, I don't seem to remember ever owning a droid. Like, doesn't know who R2 is. And I mean, it was just one of those big, like, plot holes. Maybe he's just lying. I don't know. So I always felt like it felt a little, but at the same time, like, I don't blame them. Like, they're making this new trilogy. I can see why he would really want to have at least some of the original characters, have some bridge, and R2 and C3PO being droids, and without, are that. Well, you also have Yoda.
Yeah.
But I don't know. R2's intro didn't bother me as much as 3PO's. I was like, okay. I thought it was a little bit like giving him all that fanfare, like, this droid deserves our praise, and he is was unnecessary, but whatever. I love R2.
Also,
Does
it mean that it says like R2D2 somewhere like on?
I know,
because Captain
look at him,
he's like his destination is R2D2. He reads it off of him.
What if he just made that up in that moment? What if that was like a Han Solo moment?
He's like, oh god, yeah.
What if his name is like R232 and we just never knew that? He's been like people misidentifying him for 60 years.
He's just too embarrassed to say anything.
Yeah, I've been watching.
Says his name.
I've been watching the Resistance cartoon, and there's a droid named Bucket who's over 100 years old, and I love that droid, and it makes me feel better about R2 being this old. Like if you got a good astromech droid, it's not broke. Don't get rid of it. If it wasn't blown up, keep using it. I will say that it's a little disappointing that when R2 shows up, there's this moment of like, oh yay, it's R2D2, because like you're not really connecting with the rest of the characters. Like you're not really feeling this connection to Padme or to Jar Jar. Maybe a little bit connected to Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, but not the way that you're connected to like Han, Luke, and Leia, or even like C-3PO and R2D2 in the original trilogy. Like it just doesn't have that sense of character that made the original trilogy so great.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the main thing, because for me, like, my favorite, the part of Star Wars, the original trilogy that I connected to, that got me hooked in the first place, was predominantly the chemistry between those 3 characters. Like, I fell in love with Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and Princess Leia, and the 3 of them on screen together, their banter, their dynamic, all of that is what, it wasn't necessarily, I mean, lightsaber battles are cool, spaceships are cool, special effects, but that wasn't what, like, I'd seen, by the time in the 90s, like, that stuff, when we saw it, wasn't, like, revolutionary. The special effects of the original Star Wars weren't anything, like, for me, it was the characters that I fell in love with in the story, which was just completely, like, gone in this one. Like, I didn't give a shit about, and even though I liked Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman, all really talented, I just didn't care about what happened to them.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that at the end of this sequence, we get the introduction to Darth Maul, where once Padme has escaped, we see Sidious saying, like, my apprentice will go after them. And then, like, Maul steps out of the shadows on that hologram, and it's like, damn, like, that is badass,
Really cool moment.
Yeah. Oh,
really,
so good.
Really cool moment.
So good. So now how do we weigh all of this? Because We've got like the bullshit with Jar Jar Binks. We've got the bullshit with like there's always a bigger fish, but then we have the beauty of Gunga City. We have this excitement of seeing R2D2, then Maul shows up. So I'm gonna repost this link in the chat.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't voted yet, please do. And then for our panelists on screen, if anyone wants me to vote for you, I can do that as well. So just let me know. But yeah, so we gotta assign a number to this whole section. How do we even approach that? What do you guys think? What do you think, Mika?
I think.
Hashtag bullshit Binks.
I think I'm gonna. I might even have to rate it lower and go for 3 out of 10
Wow.
because of, just because of everything we discussed, and that Darth Maul moment doesn't really. It as much of a cool moment as it is. You've got it took about 20 minutes to get there, and so yeah, that's where I'm at.
That feels fair. And Mika, do you have access to the ballot?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, I did just vote on it.
Okay, awesome. Jenny, what about you?
Kind of wishing I'd downgraded to a 4, but whatever, I'll keep it. I gave it 5. I was being a little generous because, again, I thought the visuals in the underwater scenes were impressive, and yeah, just the intro of Maul and getting that first look at him, although it probably doesn't deserve as much credit. It's only a second, but so whatever. I gave it a 5.
Yeah. What about you, Ryan?
I scored it low too. I also gave it a 3. Yeah, but and those 3 points are all for Boss Nass. He's my favorite.
Yeah, it's
nice
tough.
to see Maul at the end. I feel like Darth Maul. That's also a big choice. He looks wild, and that's a big choice that ends up really fucking working in this movie. So much so, they had to make him not dead.
Yeah. Worth it though. It was worth it.
So worth it. My God.
Okay, well, we have quite a few responses. Thank you all for voting. Let's take a look. Keep talking, Ryan. I'm going to pull up the spreadsheet and I'm going to average this out and see what our scores are.
Yes, I did find I could vote now. I found the link.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
All this technology is so hard. Yeah, Boss Nass wins. He's the best. He should get his own book. I would buy a Boss Nass book. Yeah, I like the Gungans. Jar Jar's just obviously the worst. He's so clumsy. But then he does do that cool dive when he dives into the water. So it's like, sometimes he's coordinated. Okay.
Yeah, he's able to
what's his job? What was his job? I want to know what Jar Jar's life was like before he was a senator.
That's the prequel you want? The Life of Jar Jar? Dude, they're making everything on Disney Plus. You be careful. Yeah. You be careful what you say out loud. Don't put these ideas out in the universe. We don't want that.
Is that not one of the 50 shows that they're making now? I'm sorry.
Star Wars Jar Jar.
Boss Nass, and then Jar Jar's in it a little.
Has everyone heard of the dark of Jar Jar being a Sith Lord theory?
Yeah,
I've heard of that theory. Yeah,
it's like the most apologist theory because it like makes the movie make more sense. It's just I wish it were true, I
don't know. Like this guy's become my favorite Star Wars TikToker. He's really like an expert. I mean, he knows his shit, like the books, the comics, the movies, everything up and down. And I was actually surprised when this came up because I wanted to hear his take on it. And he was like, I actually believe, I think that this was originally his intention. And when he, and that Jar Jar was going to end up being a villain, but that because the character got such a bad reception, he just tanked the whole thing. I don't know. I think it is reaching.
Well, I think that it actually.
He brings up...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say he brings up a point that I guess I forgot to watch for this, but the couple scenes that Jar Jar is like mouthing what the other characters are saying or something like very distinctly, and he brought up, he's like, this is a CGI character. Nothing this character does, no movement was not scrutinized and put together. Like, he was convinced there's a reason why he's, I don't know why him mouthing, or maybe, using like dark powers to control someone or something like that. I don't know if I buy it, but I thought it was interesting.
I think there is an argument to be made that Palpatine Jar somehow. Hold on. Stream lagging. Oh, are we still live? Can people still see and hear me? Hello?
Oh, my people.
I think we're back. My stream just lagged for a second, but I think we're good.
Yeah, because someone asked in the comments about the Sith theory. I was like, hey, yeah, we just brought that up.
Okay, we're back. Okay, good. Sorry. My computer's doing a lot right now. It's struggling. So I think there is a theory to be made that Palpatine might be exerting some sort of control over Jar Jar because, I mean, Jar Jar is directly responsible in future movies for Palpatine gaining power. So, I mean, definitely something that we'll talk about when we get there. But, yeah, I don't know. But I feel like if that was ever going to be made explicit, that moment has passed and it never was. So we kind of have to assume that that's not the case. We have to assume that Jar Jar is just the luckiest bumbling idiot in the galaxy. Okay, so we have some really interesting numbers that have come in. What happens on Naboo, the numbers rated, they range from 1 to 10. We had a lot of responses here, but the average from all the participants in chat and on screen, our panelists, is 4.1. So I plugged that in. And so far, this movie is getting a 4.95 between the first two sections of the film. Very interesting. Are you guys ready to move on to section 3?
Let's do it.
I'm ready.
Let's get to our favorite, the galaxy's favorite outer rims, out of the way, no one cares about planet that's in every single Star Wars thing.
Yes, we're going to Tatooine. So I broke
Where
up.
all legends are born.
Absolutely. Including Legends canon. I broke up Tatooine into 2 sections. So we're going to talk about everything up to the pod race, and then we'll talk about the pod race and then the rest of Tatooine in a second section. Because we're on Tatooine for like a solid hour. There's just too much to talk about in one go. So the first section of Tatooine is arriving at Tatooine all the way up through right before the pod race. Here's everything we're including. The arrival at Mos Espa, where we meet Anakin Skywalker, who thinks that Padme is an angel, and we meet Watto. We find out that Anakin is a slave. Anakin brings his new friends home. We meet C-3PO and Shmi Skywalker. Palpatine traces the Queen to Tatooine, and I included this for a very specific reason, which we'll get to in a minute. But he sends out that message where that guy from Naboo is like, the death toll is catastrophic, so that he can get a trace, so he can figure out where our heroes are, and then he sends Maul after them to Tatooine. Anakin guesses that Qui-Gon is a Jedi, offers to pod race to win them money to fix the hyperdrive. We learn that there was no father, there's a virgin birth. Then we get ready for the pod race. We meet all those kids. Jar Jar gets his tongue stuck in the energy braces. We check Anakin's midichlorian count, and Maul arrives on Tatooine and sends out droids. So I know that's a lot, but it's everything on Tatooine up to the pod race. So let's just start with the introduction of Anakin Skywalker, the man who will become Darth Vader. Ryan Casey, what do you think of the introduction of Anakin?
That angel line, I bet you he just uses that on all the ladies come into the shop. I think his introduction is fine. It's pretty bad. But I don't think this kid's that bad. I don't even think that the character is that bad. I like parts of what he does. I like that little kid. I think he sounds like a kid because he is a kid. I know that there's like better child actors and worse child actors, but I don't think this kid's way off the mark of, him and Hayden Christensen kind of meet in the middle there. But this beginning line is pretty dumb.
There is a direct line between Jake Lloyd and Hayden Christensen. and some of the ways that they move and perform are very similar. I'd never really noticed that before. Yeah, Mika, what do you think about our arrival on Tatooine?
Yeah, he seems like a dumb blonde California kid, just like Luke a little bit.
Yeah.
They should have gotten Macaulay Culkin to play him.
Oh
or
my
like
God.
the kid from the Sixth Sense.
He would be too old.
No, yeah, I think he was too old by then.
Yeah, but
Macaulay Culkin as Anakin
Don't
Skywalker.
could have done Kieran.
Can you
He's a
imagine?
fine actor.
Starring Macaulay Culkin as Darth Vader. But you know that line, that Angel's line, is referenced in a Clone Wars episode. They try and fill that in a little bit when they're actually on the they are on the planet that he mentions with these angels, and they mention it, and an angel actually like walks in there, or a floaty like celestial looking woman walks in, and I don't know. It was an interesting little Easter egg in the Clone Wars.
Oh wow, I don't remember that.
Yeah, they're like on, I forget the name of the planet. He's like those angels that are on the planet, you know, I heard they're on this thing. And then there's a scene in Clone Wars, I think it's with Obi-Wan. I don't know, I can't remember the characters that are there, the setting. But
I need to rewatch Clone Wars. I don't remember that episode.
Yeah, I've forgotten most of the beginning of Clone Wars.
Yeah. I rated this like my lowest. I hated almost everything in this scene. I hate Watto. Watto is another like just cringy
terrible stereotype.
Yeah.
Terrible stereotype.
Offensive. And like I can't stand I can't stand it. I think it's so offensive. I hate that Anakin was the one building C-3PO. Like, you just don't need that.
Yeah, thumbs down on that for me, too.
Oh, so dumb.
Miko, do you disagree? Do you like that Anakin built C-3PO?
Well, I don't know if I liked it. It didn't necessarily bother me. But I think, I don't know if you've guys seen the comic where Darth Vader, when he goes on Bespin, finds the remains of C-3PO when he gets shot on Cloud City. And he has sort of that moment of like connection. I don't know.
Oh, that's cool. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, there's this shot of, C-3PO gets blown up, and when the Empire makes their landing on Cloud City, Darth Vader goes to that room. He picks up C-3PO's head, and like, yeah, it was a really, really cool moment. But as far as Anakin building C-3PO, I don't know. That didn't bother me for whatever reason. But I'll have to agree with Jenny. Like the Tatooine sequence, all of it, maybe with the exception of the pod racing, was very, very boring.
So I voted that differently, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to the pod race for sure.
Yeah, totally.
It's so weird that Watto owns Anakin, Like, that's not really developed that much. But it's also weird that Anakin just seems a little bit bummed out that he's a slave. Like, this is your opportunity to build character and to say, like, this kid is going to grow up and dominate the galaxy. And, like, what is his pain that causes him to lash out in anger? And he grew up a slave. I mean, that's a great start. But there is no development of that. There's no character built on that. And it feels like a huge missed opportunity to me. I actually kind of like Watto. Of all the CG characters in the movie, he's my favorite for sure. But I hate the stereotypical way in which he's portrayed. But I think like as a character design, he's really interesting. And when you see him again in episode 2, I really like what they did with him in episode 2. Like when he's kind of sad about losing these slaves because they were kind of like his family in a way. Like, develop this stuff, like this is interesting stuff. Go into this. And they really like scratch the surface of it. Yeah, Sam says I love Golf Dad Watto in the next movie. And yeah, they yada the hell out of the slavery. Yeah, that really rubs me the wrong way, because like slavery is a serious topic. Let's just not throw the word slavery around and just pretend it's a thing to be like, wow, I'm sad, I'm a slave. Like let's go into that a little bit. And it really just felt like Anakin and Shmi, like, you know, they had their own house. They seemed to live comfortably, but they're also slaves. Like there was a weird disconnect there that really bothers me in this whole section.
He's like, "Hey, clean the shelves, and you can go home early." Woo, yippee!
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the yippies drive me crazy. There's almost
He
like
does a couple
like,
yippies. Yeah.
Like I know it's a kid, and I'd be okay with some kid stuff, but like even like the music throughout this scene is kind of too light and derpy. Like I don't know. You just wanted, again, this is a character that becomes Darth Vader. I'm okay with seeing him being like a regular kid, but yeah, just a little more development, and it's just and yeah, I hate every scene he's on the screen with Padme. Like it weirds me out. Oh, and the one thing I never needed and never asked for is fart jokes in a Star Wars movie. I just don't care for them, and there's like several in this scene, and I never needed that. I didn't need it.
I was watching this with my girlfriend Andy, and I turned to her during that scene. I'm like, those two are gonna bang someday. It's so disturbing.
It's very true.
Like they're gonna have children together. You know? It's really weird.
It just makes me so uncomfortable hearing her talk to this little kid. You're a funny little boy. Like, and then I'm just thinking,
man.
Yeah.
Dialogue did
like
not age well in terms of their relationship.
Yeah.
I thought that there was some sweet moments between, like, I actually like Anakin's mom, Shmi Skywalker. I like how the actress portrayed her. Like, again, there's kind of softness to her and sensitive. There was a couple.
Oh yeah,
moments
she's
between
awesome.
her and her son. I really like her.
Amazing performance. The only human feeling character in the entire movie is Shmi Skywalker.
Yeah, she actually did better than most at delivering her lines, even though a lot of her lines were just as poorly written as everyone else's. But she sells it. I really liked her this time around. Like I do think, I mean, that's something that, you know, setting her up, because she is such an important character to develop. I mean, this was one of like my frustrations, like that Padme was so ill developed, or, you know, like you need to believe these reasons for why, you know, again, this kid becomes Darth Vader, and his relationship with his mother is super important. I think she was fantastic.
Yeah. Speaking of Andy, she just popped in the chat. What's up, Andy?
Oh, hi.
Andy.
Andy and Miko were in Urinetown together, which is how I know of Miko, because they've worked together before. And I was telling Andy, I was telling Andy about doing this. She's like, I know someone who's a huge Star Wars nerd, and you got to reach out. And I'm so glad. So thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
Yes. Miko, what time is it for you now? It's like 3:45 in the morning.
It's like 3:44 in the morning.
I was so close. Okay, I really want to talk about this. So Palpatine, Palpatine has them send this message where that guy says, you know, the people are dying, trying to get a trace, so that he can send Maul to Tatooine. And the reason I bring this up is because it seems that like Sidious has no idea where they went. He has no idea they went to Tatooine. And the fact that they pick up Anakin Skywalker on Tatooine is like hugely important to the franchise as a whole. And we find out in episode 3, it's heavily implied that Darth Sidious, or maybe even his master, but I think it was Darth Sidious, used the midichlorians to create Anakin Skywalker, right? Like this whole virgin birth thing that is, you know, introduced in this segment of the movie. Like Anakin was born of the midichlorians, but then in episode 3, it's basically implied that was like a twisted dark side thing that happened where they created a child out of midichlorians to serve the dark side. Is this an unfamiliar theory?
No, I don't really remember that.
Is this just me?
I feel like it is. No, I feel like that does sound familiar.
Okay, this has been, well, I've actually read that in like the extended canon, this has been confirmed that Palpatine created Anakin Skywalker.
If you got a planet, if you got a kid you need to abandon / protect, There's only one planet, and it is Tatooine.
Tatooine.
Okay, there's a lot of surprise around this. I'm shocked. Okay, let me back up. Okay, no, Sam has heard of this. Okay, so yeah, so basically that whole opera scene in Revenge of the Sith, when Palpatine's talking about how you can use the midichlorians to create life, the implication there, I think, and also like some canon has gone into this, that Darth Plagueis the Wise was Sidious's master, and Sidious like killed him.
I got that.
Yeah, and like took over as the head Sith. But Darth Plagueis was working on creating life with the midichlorians, and that's where Anakin came from. That's why there was this virgin birth. And that makes me feel so much better about the virgin birth, because I hate the virgin birth. Like the first time I watched this, that was one of the first moments that my heart just sank during this movie. I'm like, you're telling me Anakin Skywalker is a virgin birth? Like, that's so upsetting. But if he's created by the dark side, it's a lot more interesting.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but if that's the case,
I've never heard of that before.
If that's the case, then how does Sidious not know that they're going to pick up Anakin on Tatooine? Like, if Sidious created Anakin and just left him there, it should be a part of his plan that Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan end up on Tatooine, but it's very obviously not. So then it makes me feel like the one thing I like about this, the redeeming thing about the virgin birth, the fact that the midichlorians were used to create Anakin, and the redeeming thing about the midichlorians themselves, because I really did not like them in this movie either, but I'm like, okay, if you're using midichlorians to create Anakin, that gets a little more interesting. It seems like that was an afterthought. It doesn't seem like that's set up in this movie at all. If anything, it seems like because Palpatine has to trace them because he doesn't know where they're going, he has no idea that there's this kid out in the outer rim of the galaxy who is this like midichlorian created person. So it's very contradictory based off of the future canon.
Are you telling me they made a wild connection after the fact to put two plot points together?
I know.
I'm shocked.
You're right. You're right. I'm full of shit. Like Luke and Leia being brother and sister, same thing. Like Darth Vader being Anakin's father, same thing. These are all connections that are made after the fact. So I should stop complaining.
No, it's annoying still. The midichlorians were an annoying. That's a choice that I think is very stupid and doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it makes it like the whole thing is like this is a planet that keeps birthing Jedi superheroes, but like none of it's ever just a kid that was born. Even this, where it's like he comes from a slave, except there's no father, and his father is just the Force. And it's like, okay, and or it's Palpatine's kid, or your Skywalker, or your Luke Skywalker. It seems silly, and they do it so many times. 3 different times. Once for each trilogy.
Joe says in chat.
That was one of
this is really, really interesting in chat. Joe says the midichlorians were used to create life, but you can't control where that life is born. I love that. So, like, the dark side uses the midichlorians to create life, but they don't know where this child was born, and they're just kind of like, it's like Darth Vader waiting for Luke Skywalker to come to him on Endor. It's like eventually this child will come to the Emperor, you know? So that's kind of cool. I like that. That makes me feel a little bit better.
Also, I keep thinking about Rey, and I think that Rey was born on Tatooine, but it's not. It's Jakku. It just looks exactly like Tatooine.
Yeah.
Very confusing.
Desert planets. There's something about desert planets.
Yeah.
It's the sand. It's the sand. It gets in everything.
Maybe sand is midichlorians. And maybe when it gets in everything, it gives you force powers.
Maybe the midichlorians are the spice, and the spices comes from the worms, and the worms are in the desert.
There you go. That's it.
And it's a shared universe with Dune.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. Crate dragons are sandworms.
Yeah.
Well, what about the virgin birth? I have talks about how I don't like it. Does anyone have any conflicting thoughts about that?
I watched it this time, and I like to think that she's just lying. And she's like, "Yeah, I don't know. I don't know his dad. He's just. I can't explain it. I'm not going to explain it to you. I don't know you."
Like, stop trying to pry.
Yeah, she doesn't
I don't know.
Qui-Gon.
I didn't like it. I didn't like the reverse. I didn't like that M count. The midichlorian thing was also. I think my face in the theater was just like what? Because the Force was
He has to
so
get-
abstract and beautiful and mystical in the original trilogy, and then to just like explain it away, like midichlorians, there's a way to test for them, the M count in your blood. Like I felt like it took away all the everything that was cool about the Force. Again, that being said, now I mean within the Mandalorian, I'm not minding the M count and the way they're further exploring this within the Mandalorian, and also how they addressed it in some of the Clone Wars episode. Like I talked about, I loved that episode with Yoda going on his like his little quest or whatnot, and they kind of go into more about the midichlorians, and I didn't mind it much, but I hated it the first time they brought it up. It was like, why are you gonna do that? Why you gotta ruin everything?
Yeah. We'll get into that a little more when we get to the part where Qui-Gon is explaining the midichlorians to Anakin. But yeah, this is like the first hint of it where we're checking Anakin's blood. And it's kind of implied that they're checking to see how force sensitive he is. And I just remember being a kid being like, nope. I hate that. I hate the idea that you can measure like force sensitivity by checking someone's blood. I don't know why I hate it so much. It just like the force was just this beautiful magical thing that I felt like I could tune into if I tried hard enough. But then all of a sudden it's like, maybe you're born with it. Maybe it's midichlorians. You know, that's not as fun.
Make that onto a shirt.
Yeah.
It seems to be part of like this weird, like unnecessary and sort of failed theme of like symbiosis or that he tries to do in only this movie. It's like the midichlorians are a symbiote of us and the Gungans and the Naboo, or it's like he says symbiosis or symbiotic like several times in this movie.
Yeah, I don't know, but I do like that they're leaning into it in Mandalorian. I feel like midichlorians exist. Like we can't get rid of them; they've happened. So if we can tell a good story with them, let's do it. And I love that. I think that that's absolutely the right thing to do. Yeah. Like you can't just pretend that episode 1 didn't happen. Believe me, I tried for years. I was like, let's just pretend that this isn't Star Wars. And it really broke my Star Wars fandom for a while. But now that I love the new stuff so much and I'm back into reading the novels again and I'm having so much fun with that, I'm like re-embracing all Star Wars canon. And I may not like how these things were introduced in this movie, and that's fine, but it doesn't mean that, Star Wars is not ruined. It's not broken the way that I thought it was as a child. Star Wars is alive and well. We just got like the best piece of Star Wars. One of the best pieces of Star Wars that's ever been made came out like last week with the end of Mandalorian. Oh my God. It was so amazing. Yeah.
Give Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau everything.
Yeah.
And just have them fix everything.
Yeah, totally.
Take my firstborn. I will, like, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, too much faith. They'll screw it up eventually too.
No.
I'm dropping
don't take it.
I'm dropping the ballot in chat. We're voting on the first section of Tatooine.
Okay.
So just to remind you, everything included on this ballot: arrival at Mos Espa, meeting Anakin, meeting Padme, meeting Watto, meeting 3PO and Shmi. Anakin offering to pod race to win them money, the virgin birth. Getting ready for the pod race, checking Anakin's midichlorian count. We didn't talk about Maul arriving on Tatooine. It's a really short sequence, but it's awesome. I think every time Maul is on scene, it's awesome.
Yeah, Maul's pretty much the best part of this movie.
Yeah.
I like everything that's happening when he is there, which is unfortunately less than we thought we would get.
So I'm giving this section a 3. This is like one of the low points of the movie for me. I feel like finding out that 3PO was built by Anakin, the virgin birth, like these are all like heart-sinking moments. I do love seeing Mos Espa. I love that. Like this is the biggest city that we've seen on Tatooine. Every time we see a new city on Tatooine, I'm stoked. I love that. I'm all about that. But like there's just so many things that happen in this sequence that just leave such a bad taste in my mouth. What about you, Ryan? What are you rating this one?
I gave it pretty low too. I gave it a 4. I think it's setting up a lot of stuff. I think spending that much time sort of just like hanging out in town before the pod race sort of helps me like be in the moment for the pod race or immersed in the pod race a little bit. But it's kind of shitty. All the metachlorian stuff is no good. I do like Shmi. I like Watto, even though he's offensive. So he's not as cool as Boss Nass, but he's up there for fun characters. I don't think we mentioned it, unfortunately, but I'll mention him now. I love Sebulba. He's one of my favorites, and I could have gotten more Sebulba. You get a little bit of him being nasty. He looks cool. He's the only guy who walks on his hands. I love Sebulba. But yeah, this part's boring, so I just gave it a 4.
Yeah. What about you, Miko?
I gave it a 2.
Wow.
Yo.
I gave it a 2.
Burn.
Just because, yeah, I mean, everyone's already pretty much said it. It's the most boring part of the movie, in my opinion. And it does introduce a lot of things, and we get cool characters like Sebulba and Watto, despite, the terrible stereotype. But other than that, it was just boring for me.
What about
I
you,
always
Jenny?
skip that part when I watch it on the DVD.
Wise.
Oh.
That's a wise choice. What'd you give it, Jenny?
Yeah, I gave it a 3 as well. A couple points because I like Shmi. Watto. I like Watto as his design as an alien, like the way he flies, like just kind of like a little helicopter or something. It's really cool. But
Yeah.
hate everything else about his character. Did you guys know? Well, Jesse, you just read Dark Disciple. I'm reading Dark Disciple right now. There is a shot of
Quinlan Voss. Yeah.
In this scene. I'm also giving it another point for that. I'd never noticed him before. I read it somewhere. But that was kind of fun because I'm reading Dark Disciple right now.
Yeah, Dark Disciple's fantastic. And this is so cool. So like Quinlan Voss was just like a background character in episode 1, and they liked his design, so they built a character around it for the Clone Wars.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that too.
Awesome. I love that there's like a whole story around a dude that had like a passing shot in right? That's the only place we see him, right?
Yep.
Is that shot on
what does he look like? I don't know this character.
He's got like a distinctive yellow line tattoo over
and like sort of like
long dark
dreadlocks.
hair. I don't have my book down here. There's a picture of him on the cover of my book.
Yeah.
He's in an episode of Clone Wars too.
Yeah, and everyone should read Dark Disciple. It's fantastic. It's about Asajj Ventress. It's really great.
Really good.
Ooh,
yeah.
I'm gonna write that down.
This is one of my least favorite parts of the movie. Same. It has some of my least favorite moments. Again, I hate the fart jokes, the dumb humor. So 3.
Yeah. Okay, let's close the voting. Let's see what people said.
Right.
Responses. Here we go. Ooh, they're low. They are low. It's not looking good for this section. Oh, shit. Oh, man. Okay, let me average these out. I also have to tell you guys, I spent a long time figuring out how I could run these polls in a good way. And I'm so excited that I figured this out. Okay, this section gets a 2.8. Damn.
Hey.
Ouch.
Stinky.
And that brings our overall score down from 4.95 to a 4.23. So we're heading down, guys. This is a downward trajectory. I'm a little worried. We've only gone through 3 sections. I'm a little worried that we're going to be going for so long that Miko will pass out because it's going to be like 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, if anyone needs to leave, I will not be upset. We have enough people that people can come and go. Totally fair. If it's just me and my dog Miles talking about Star Wars, totally fine with me. But let's move on to the next section. The pod race.
Woo!
So this section, I've included 2 things: the pod race, the aftermath of the pod race. Well, 3 things, and Darth Maul's attack as they're trying to leave Tatooine. So we're actually in the voting. You'll have 2 questions to answer. I'm just going to post the poll right now, so people can get started on their voting. So you got to rate the pod race itself, and then rate the aftermath of the pod race, which includes freeing Anakin Skywalker from slavery, Darth Maul's attack, fleeing Tatooine during that Darth Maul's attack, and then Obi-Wan and Anakin meet. So that's what the second half of Tatooine. Dropping that in the chat. Got a Jabba cameo. That's right.
Yeah.
Are you
I did
a
like
Jedi
Jabba.
too? Nice to meet you.
So okay, what do we think about the pod race?
I
Race
like
rules.
it. I like it.
You like it?
Yeah, I really like it. Also, I just recently found out that that the announcer guy was voiced by Greg Proops.
Right, from Whose Line Is It Anyway? Yes.
I only recently figured that out, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. I actually learned something
Oh, man.
incredible this week that, we see Bib Fortuna next to Jabba the Hutt, and the guy who played Bib Fortuna in the post-credit scene of The Mandalorian played him in episode
Same
1.
guy.
And that's
Yeah.
Matthew Wood, who played General Grievous's voice.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was like a mind-blown moment for me.
Just,
Those other, like,
just
text
so
Wait,
workers.
cool.
was he the original Bib Fortuna, and
No.
he's in this too?
No.
Or
No,
okay,
he
but
was.
the guy from
Yeah, he
this
was in-
is in the Mandalorian.
Right.
Bib Fortuna. I like it.
Mhm.
Which worked out so well because so much time has passed that he plays young Bib Fortuna, not original Bib Fortuna, but then older Bib Fortuna. So it's just it's
Best
perfect.
name.
I love
think
that.
Maybe could it be the best name in Star Wars? Bib
I love
Fortuna.
Bib Fortuna.
Bib
I
Fortuna.
don't know. I'm partial to Salacious
It's up there.
Crumb.
Salacious Crumb. I was gonna say it's a good one.
They both, but they hang out together too. That's the
Yeah.
best.
Sai Snoodles.
Sice
I would
Noodles
like
is
to
good.
call him
Sai
too.
Snoodles.
Sai
Good
Snoodles.
too.
Yeah. I don't like the pod race. I don't like it. I know that this
Really?
is weird, but for me, it's actually really boring because there's no story that's happening at all, and like you're doing 3 laps of the same course. So not only is there no story happening, but you have to watch the same thing happen 3 times.
It's how races work.
Yeah, if I'm not
They
if I'm
always
not
do
racing, I don't like to watch it. I feel like the forward momentum of the story kind of comes to a halt. I don't like the fact that it's like questionable whether or not these racers are being killed, and it just goes like untalked about.
Some of them
Like,
are. It's dangerous.
we see Sebulba, ejecting at the end, so he obviously survives. But it's just like this casual, well, maybe they're dead. Who cares? And also like,
I think some of them are definitely dead.
yeah, Anakin's pod racer not starting at first. He loses the race. Like he's already lost the race. And when they show him like catching up later, it's like, why is his pod race 10 times faster than everyone else's pod racer? Like that doesn't make sense. And then like when he loses
That
the
is
connection
literally the
later, he's got to like
podcast.
grab it with a magnet. Like none of these action beats work for me. And for me, this part of the movie is really a slog. Like every time I get to it, I'm like checking my phone and thinking about other things. It just something about it just does not do it for me.
I couldn't disagree more.
Well, tell me why.
I love it. I think it's fun. I think it sounds good. I like all the characters good. I think the concept itself, where it's like, what if it's like chariots, but instead of horses, it's just huge jet engines. And we didn't really talk about it, but like, yes, they talk about like Rey being like a Mary Sue. This kid's like 10. How old is Anakin supposed to be in this? And
I think 8.
he builds a whole robot.
Yeah. He's a
for his
Gary
mom.
Sue.
He built a whole pod rat. Yeah, but like this is the only part of the movie where it like genuinely makes sense. Like it doesn't later when he's in like the Naboo starfighter, he's like, "What?" And it's like sort of makes sense that he could kind of figure it out because he's like Rick Oli's showing him the controls of the Nubian like later. But like in this, he like knows what he's doing, and he's silent the whole time, and he's doing the little controls. And even though he's a little kid, I totally buy that he is like a very good pod racing. Yeah, I don't know the damn sand people just taking pot shots at it because like that's what they do because they're just like sort of hicks and they're just like, oh, let's get up on the mountain and just take pot shots at the race while it's going on. I like it, and I think, like I talked about earlier, the like little moments of humor, I think in it are like not annoying. Even Mr. Greg Proops as the announcer, I think it's fun. I think, and it would be, I think, even better if there wasn't Jar Jar already being so stupid and not funny.
Yeah.
But I don't know. For me, it's like the price of admission. Like this whole movie, I feel like exists around the pod race, and it was fun. It's fun to watch today. I was like, ooh, I kind of missed that pod racing game. Was good that it came out when this movie came out. I've always liked the pod race. I like it every time.
Yeah, I feel like I'm definitely in the minority. I mean, most people I talk to really like it. What about you, Jenny?
I said that because I feel like I have two ways about it. I will say I respect the pod racing scene, and I get why a lot of people love it. So I don't think it's bad. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but it is usually uses that scene to like for the fan. But like the pod race is awesome, right? And yeah, for me, like I am kind of bored. Like, and if I were to rate it in terms of other action sequences, Star Wars, it would be like it's one of those scenes. Like, I'm just not like I'm usually working on my other stuff. Like, I just don't care that much about it either. The thing that I like about it is I do kind of like how Star Wars takes very familiar Earth things like a sporting event or a race car, and makes them Star Wars. I think it's kind of fun, the announcers and the kind of Star Wars take on it. The same way I like the scene on Coruscant in Revenge of the Sith. I think when they're watching, they go into like a sports bar and all the different alien sports are on the TVs and stuff. So I kind of like it for that. I like seeing Jabba. Like I respect it, but it's not one of my favorites. Like it's not like there's really only one scene that I go back to Phantom Menace to watch. It's not this one. Like I don't really care about it, but I get why people like it, and I feel like I can understand. It just doesn't do anything for me. But
That's how I feel.
I gave it points.
Yeah.
I gave it points for it because I'm like, no, this is cool, and I get why people love it.
I totally agree. It doesn't offend me. It's like it's not
bad. It's
actively bad. It's just kind of like passively not my jam,
Yeah.
Like there's moments of it that I like. It's cool to see Jawas and Tusken Raiders. There are some, I mean, I was actually thinking about this when I was watching it. It's like if you put a rock and roll score under this and edit it down, it could be a badass music video, like there's some great footage in it. Yeah. It's just like what it does for the story. It's just like, it just feels like luck. It's just, all these things that don't quite make sense happening around Anakin. And I think we're supposed to extrapolate that he's just really strong with the Force, and that's why. But that's not enough for me in Star Wars, because if you're just going to do that, then all the movies fall apart, It's like, oh, why? Because of the Force. No, that's not enough. Like there has to be there has to be rules.
That's not how the Force works.
Right.
In any kind of fantasy or something, you can't just have like in Harry Potter or something like it's magic. You just do whatever, like, and that there can be anything. You've got to have kind of some restrictions about it.
Structure.
Like, I give them a little bit of like, okay, they're using the Force, that's why they can jump really high. That but I thought it was stretching a little bit, but I can buy that though, that he's good because he uses the Force.
Yeah,
I don't know, fine.
Yeah. So obviously he wins, and then they free Anakin. Can't free his mom. There's this like emotional goodbye, and it's the first time we really kind of see that Jedi are taken from their family and never allowed to return, which was another moment where I was like, whoa, like that does not feel right. Did anyone else feel that way?
That they're taking kids?
I, in my most recent watch through, it seems that this notion of Jedi taking kids was really like, of course, really sort of made just so that they could give Anakin the sort of tragedy that he ends up having. And actually, I remember watching it this most recent time and getting really emotional, just seeing him getting separated by his mom. It's like, oh my God, this kid's gone through, and he's about to go through so much. And yeah, I don't know. I loved that moment with his, saying goodbye to his mom. Don't go, turn around and don't look back. Oh, just yeah, it got me.
Yeah.
It got me this last time. It's like, yeah, so good.
Yeah, there's something. I mean, if you think about like if this order, the Jedi Order, they have access to a power that everyone else doesn't have access to, and it's a very influential power. You can like make or shape or break the galaxy with this power, and I feel like they're really afraid of their own power. It's like they're all of the way that they operate seems like it's built around fear. It's like, why can't you have attachments? Because they're afraid you'll turn to the dark side. Why can't you see your parents? Because they're afraid that having that attachment will prevent you from staying in the light. So someone said in chat, like, it felt wrong in a way that felt intentional. That was Sam. Yeah, I totally agree. This is another thing that, like, within hindsight, I think is actually really effective. The way that the Jedi Order is sort of disappointing in this movie is part of why the Jedi Order fails. And like Star Wars has not gone into building the new Jedi Order yet, which they really need to. But what I want to see is like the new Jedi Order that is more of like a gray Jedi, where they try to work for the light, but they're willing to acknowledge the dark, because just not acknowledging it at all is how you have people like Anakin just snap and he just gets consumed. And again, like Dark Disciple is a great book to read, where Asajj Ventress is kind of navigating the light and the dark. But it also kind of shows you how the dark is a current that can kind of overtake you and you get stuck in it. So that's the type of stuff that I'm just really love in Star Wars and want to see more of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That opens a whole great conversation too about mental health and how we as a society view mental health, and how, be happy, don't worry about it. Just, that sort of, it really does mirror today's society and how we view mental health as a whole. And yeah, Anakin Skywalker had some issues.
Yeah.
He had some issues, and most of them were because of the Jedi. And yeah, it's just a very fascinating thing to think about.
I totally agree. And then the fight with Darth Maul at the end of this section is badass. That's like when I wake up when I'm watching this movie, because like I fall asleep a little bit during the pod race. That scene with Anakin and his mom, very touching, very sad. But I'm just like, man, where's my Star Wars feelings? And then Maul attacks Qui-Gon, and it's like, boom, it's right there. It's so badass. Qui-Gon panting when he gets on the ship at the end. I love it.
Yeah. No, that part was
cut
great.
in such a weird way. That moment, though, where it's like you see, they're like, okay, we're gonna go back to the ship, and then you see Darth Maul, and he takes off on his little bike, and he goes down a little cliff, and then it cuts to immediately like Qui-Gon and the kid like running towards the ship as if like danger's already on the way, and then he's like, I'm tired, and he's like, oh, get down, and Darth Maul is like immediately on them. I mean, I guess it works, like it's a good pace. We need to get going, but
yeah,
I thought it was awkwardly edited.
You're right.
I guess
you're right.
There was that deleted scene that they had where they had that probe droid. I totally agree that it was very, very, very weird.
Yeah,
maybe I'm remembering having seen that at some point. But as for like the kid stuff, it's weird to me because in the original trilogy, obviously they're like, Luke, you're too old to train. But then this kid, how old is he? And he's too old to train too?
Yeah, he's 8.
Anakin's too, like, yeah.
What age?
When do they start? What's the right age to start training?
2.
4? 2? Like, yes, that makes sense.
They take him pretty young. I have
I don't
the
have a lot
Jedi
of the
path behind me, and it's like this it's like this Jedi manual, and it says in there, like, they take them like when they're like toddlers, like very very young.
That's an episode of Clone Wars too. They've got that episode where they go and they're taking the younglings, and they're like still in cribs basically. So, but it's also like if Anakin was too old to begin the training at 8 years old, how did Yoda even consider Luke at 19? Like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if 8 is too old, 19 is like there's no
Twice
discussion here.
Twice as old.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. But you're too young unless all the rest of the Jedi are dead, in which case you're the perfect age.
yeah, I guess that they got to make an exception when
Or
there's
you
no
know,
more.
or Ray also trains as an adult, and so does Leia. Off not during in any of the movies, but it's implied that she went through training.
Well, by
right?
that point, that's probably Luke changing it up because he's like, he's like changing the tradition, the whatnot.
And like,
from then on, it's like,
what's the reason for taking them that young? I think it's so they can fully indoctrinate them to the point where, like, they will hopefully not turn to the dark side because they can't consider it because they're brainwashed. You know, like I'd rather train an adult who has a sense of self first, who's making the decisions for themselves. I think that's safer. So again, like Jedi Order not being what we thought it would be, watching the original trilogy, coming back to these prequels, you know. Hey, what's up, Super Hamster? Good to see you.
They don't want you to have like attachments at all to anything, to any family.
Right, but like attachments are what make us strong. Like our love for each other is what makes us strong. And I love that the Jedi seem to recognize that, but say like it's too dangerous, you know. And you know, the movie makes the argument that Anakin's love for Padme is what turns him to the dark side. But I feel like if the Jedi had been straight with Anakin, and if Anakin had been allowed to admit his love for Padme, then maybe that wouldn't have happened if he wasn't like living in secret. Yeah. Okay, well, let's rate this section. There are 2 questions to answer on this ballot. So how do you rate the pod race itself? And then how do you rate the aftermath of the pod race, including Anakin saying goodbye to his mother and Maul's attack? Oh, and then Obi-Wan and Anakin meet, which is a small moment, but very important.
My screen, I can only rate from 1 to 5 for the second part.
Let me see.
Is that normal?
Oh, hold on. I can fix that. That is my mistake.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so that's my mistake.
The
everyone.
one time I want to give it higher than a 5, and I can't.
Okay, just refresh that page. It's now 1 to 10, and let me look at the responses.
Cool.
If anyone wanted to vote differently than they voted, let me know. The responses we had so far were very low numbers, so I assume that was intentional. Yeah. So for me, the pod race is like a 4 because there's cool stuff, but yeah, not my favorite. And the aftermath I like quite a bit, actually. Freeing Anakin is interesting. Taking us from his mother, I didn't like it when I was a kid, but now I see the value in it for the story. Maul's attack is awesome. So I'm going to give that like a 7, I think. What about you guys? What about you, Ryan?
I give the pod race 10 out of 10.
Nice.
Best part of the movie. Always fun. Love pod races. The rest of it, I gave a 6 because it's fine. I like. Is it Shmi? Is her name Shmi? What's his mom?
Yeah, Shmi.
She's good. She's great. She's kind of cute. I don't believe her about the virgin birth though. I feel like that's a cover song. That's a cover story for something else. I don't. What do I?
Tension between Qui-Gon and Shmi. Like I thought.
Yeah, a little bit.
I felt like there's a little bit of like.
He puts his hand on her shoulder. When he's packing his. Like, are you okay?
There's
and he's so much taller than her.
Being exchanged.
Yeah.
Sam, I'm not worried about the results being skewed. There was only a couple of responses that came through. Most of the responses just came through just now. But if anyone wants to change response, let me know. We're going to close out the voting. Last chance to let me know if you wanted to vote higher before I fix that poll. And let's pull up.
Yeah.
The vote is all over the map on this one. So let's pull it up into a spreadsheet. Yeah, we got a lot of numbers here. Oh, sorry. Did I not ask? Sorry, Jenny.
Yeah, you skipped.
I'm so sorry.
I give both a 7. The pod race thing 7. I think it is really good. Again, just for what it was not my thing, and I did think the scenes of him leaving his mother. I can like imagine it being done so much better. Like again, especially after watching like The Mandalorian is setting such a high standard for the actual like acting skill in these kind of moments. So compared to that, it's still a little, but it's sweet, and I want to give it credit. I get so 7.
How about just briefly? How about how Anakin just ices C-3PO? He's like, "Sorry, I didn't finish you. I could go.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell Mom not to sell you." It's like,
Yeah.
Well, the numbers are in. This section got a 6.3, which is respectable. The highest rated section so
Lower than
far.
I thought, though.
Yeah, I mean, so the pod race like really works for some people and really not for others. But that brings us up to a 4.7. So this movie's really got to kick it into high gear if we're gonna clear
Nico,
5.
what did you give it? Did you?
This was my highest rated one so far. I gave the pod race, I think, a 10, and I also gave the scenes afterwards a 10.
Nice. I'm just skipping people left and right over here. All right, well, let's move on to section 5.
A lot to think about.
I accidentally closed. There we go. Okay. So we're moving on to Coruscant. We're leaving Tatooine. We're going to Coruscant. So we're going to talk about everything that happens on Coruscant. Palpatine pushes Amidala to elect a new chancellor. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon report to the Jedi Council. The Senate convenes. Amidala pushes for a vote of no confidence in Chancellor Valorum. The Jedi Council tests Anakin, decides not to train him. Palpatine is nominated for Chancellor. Palpatine decides to return home and fight. And as they're leaving, Qui-Gon explains midichlorians to Anakin. So let's break this up into 3 sections. We're going to talk about everything that happens with the Jedi Council, everything that happens with the Senate, Amidala, Palpatine, all that stuff. And then we got to talk about midichlorians because it's rough. So let's start with the Jedi Council. Like, this is the first time we've ever seen the Jedi Council. How did people feel about that?
I have to run to the bathroom really fast, but I will be
so
right
do I.
back.
Let's take a break. Let's take 5. I'm gonna put on a away from keyboard screen, and then we'll be back in a few minutes, everyone. So thank you all so much for being here. If you haven't hit like on the stream, please do, and we'll be back in just a few. I'm gonna mute us. We'll be right back.
There's 4.
We've got one OG.
Oh no, I
And
accidentally muted
3
myself. I was just
So they're
saying
just like-
we got to look at Jenny's pile of Yodas.
This is my pile of Yodas. Yeah, because this is just what everyone gets me for presents is Star Wars stuff. But this is by far, I mean, come on.
Oh my God, look at that.
Oh
Like-
God,
That's
Just
so
so
cute.
He's
cute.
so good. Like his little ears, like
Oh,
he's
that's
just
amazing.
the best.
while
Like
we're
I
showing
had
while
on
we're showing and
Christmas-
telling. Sorry, go ahead, Jenny. Oh, Jenny
Oh,
froze.
she's frozen.
A
I'll
good
turn him-
freeze though.
Oh no.
There she is. Okay.
On Christmas, because he talks too. He's a little rusty though, like he's getting a little old. But so on Christmas Day, my family, we were just getting a kick out of like them just conversing with each other. Like I just had them both on, like looking at each other, and he'd be like, like they're just talking to each other. Like, what have I become? Who am I?
While we're doing show and tell, I got to show off this shirt. It's the what's it called? ET.
Oh yeah.
But it's a mashup. It's the C-3PO and R2-D2. And the Death Star. And then this was a housewarming gift. I just moved to this apartment, and Andy's dad got me this. It's a Baby Yoda Mando toaster.
Oh my God. Yes.
And it actually it puts an image of Baby Yoda onto your toast. Unfortunately, that part of it doesn't really work. Yes, in my armpit hair. Thanks for pointing that out. All right, we're back.
Awesome. I'm gonna put him.
Oh no, Adam, I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope you're okay. Well, you are okay. I'm glad to hear that. But man, that sounds horrible. Trial's going awesome. It's big. It's a lot. Okay.
Big long movie.
We gotta get this thing going before. I mean, I feel like I'm gonna fall asleep. It's like 6 a.m. for Miko in the UK.
I'm fine. It's fine.
I'm probably more tired than you are. I'm exhausted. Okay, Coruscant. We were talking about Coruscant. We just started talking about Coruscant. Okay, so the Jedi Council. How do we feel about the way the Jedi Council is presented in this movie?
For me, this is the sort of quote unquote boring bit that actually worked for me because it added so much character and so much depth, and it really does a great job building the world, or the galaxy rather, as it is in this moment in the timeline. And so this moment of political upheaval and the Jedi Council trying to sort their shit out. I don't know. It all works for me, and this is the one bit of the movie where I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I loved seeing Yoda here, and this was the first time that I've seen the redone CGI Yoda, because they redid him twice now.
Oh yeah,
like there was originally the puppet, and then they redid the CGI, and it was okay, but then they redid it again, and it's actually a lot better now. That Yoda was so expressive. I really liked that, and it's so interesting to see the council as like these aloof, people that don't seem like connected to the galaxy at large. So as a kid, it was really disappointing, but again, as an adult, like seeing the story as a whole, I think it's actually really interesting. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, that original puppet I remember looking pretty foolish.
Yeah.
And it just didn't look like Yoda totally. And yes, the redone, I was looking at I watched it today, and the newest CGI version, I was like, yeah, it's not bad. And I guess I didn't know that they have redone it more than one time.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's cool is that this was the first time Coruscant was in a movie, and it was like a thing, that I knew about from extended stuff. I've maybe seen drawings of, or maybe it might have been in a game or two or something, but like never in a movie. So that was something that was very cool to see.
That was amazing. I'd always wanted to see Coruscant. Finally seeing it was so exciting.
It's cooler in the second one where it's like that whole opening sequence that happens in Coruscant. I think is actually pretty sick.
Hey Joseph, what's up? Good to see you. Tell Nita I said hi.
Seeing it for the first time is cool.
Yeah,
and, I like Jedi Council. They all seem like it's cool to see a bunch of Jedis when you've only ever seen one or two before this. But they don't know what they're talking about. Fear. I sense fear in you. It's a kid who's pretty young, too old to be trained, but also still a kid. And like, why I know that fear leads to stuff, but like, what's wrong with being scared? I think that's like should be an okay thing.
Yeah, it kind of comes back to the idea of like the Jedi being afraid of their own power. It's like I don't think they even realize that, but they're so afraid of people being afraid because fear leads to anger and aggression and darkness and all that. But like not allowing someone to be afraid is in essence being afraid of fear itself, which is, the only thing to fear is fear itself. And they're just so disconnected from that. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's like their whole idea is to be totally neutral in some kind of way. Like, not being scared or in love with anything.
Yeah. What about you, Jenny?
Like toxic positivity, not acknowledging real emotions.
Yeah.
This is also a scene where I think I was probably just bored in the theater and just like, I don't know, I guess cool to see a lot of Jedi together, but wasn't that interested. But I liked a lot more this time around. Just kind of seeing them, how they operate, and understanding now that them being kind of shitty and arrogant, all the problems with them actually make it more interesting to me now as a flaw in the system, that they are not this like mystical, all great, perfect, heroes. Like, that's boring. I like that. Yeah, Yoda still weirds me out a little bit. CGI Yoda. I kind of vaguely remember what the puppet looked like, and that didn't look right either.
The puppet looked really, really weird.
It was bad.
And also,
Yoda looked like 400 years younger as a puppet.
Yeah.
His head was.
But also, I agree with you guys. I think for me, seeing Coruscant for the first time was super exciting because, that was the first, because we heard about that in the book. Like, I think the Thrawn trilogy was the first time I'd heard about Coruscant, and I remember that was one of the things that I actually really liked about the special editions, the end of Return of the Jedi, where they expand that celebration scene and you get that first glimpse of Coruscant.
Oh yeah,
it was so cool. And then
yeah,
seeing it fully fleshed out, like for the first time in this movie, like I liked that. I was so excited to see Coruscant, and I'll save my thoughts for Attack of the Clones because they go into more depth. It's one of my favorite parts of Attack of the Clones. That city is so stinking cool. So yeah, I liked this, the way they set it up.
Yeah, it's a little weird that like they decide not to train. I actually kind of like that they decide not to train Anakin. That Yoda senses that darkness in him and says no. Yeah, I think that's an interesting plot point. As a kid, I was bored in the Jedi Council scenes, but as an adult, I kind of eat it up. The first time I saw it, I loved it, and then by the fourth time in the theaters as a kid, I was like, "This is boring." But now as an adult, I've come back to loving it again. Especially having watched so much Clone Wars. Just like, it's just such an iconic room, the Jedi Council chambers, It's like such a cool design. They all have these lounge chairs and they're up on the top of Coruscant. I think it's really cool. I like it.
Hologram, like when they're absent, that they just have like at any given time, there's usually, I think this first scene is the most you see all of them in the room together. Usually it seems to be about half and half are holograms and stuff, but I thought that was cool too.
Yeah. And then the other thing that was boring as a kid that I love as an adult is all the Senate chambers stuff, all the political machinations, like seeing the way that Palpatine kind of created conflict so that he could take advantage of it. I think is really great.
Yeah. I don't want to skip ahead, but there's a scene of that towards the end with Palpatine that I really liked.
Yeah.
In this movie, but yeah.
That guy's great, man. He holds all of these movies together, kind of in a way.
Yeah.
Just,
I mean, it's more the Palpatine saga than the Skywalker saga, if anything.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So then, of course, we
So
get
much that
to.
they had to bring him back into the last stupid movie.
I liked it. I love that movie.
No. We haven't talked about that movie at all.
Yeah, you and I haven't at all. Yeah, we should.
We're going to.
And then, of course, as they're leaving Coruscant, we get the midichlorian scene where it's explained to us that midichlorians are in your blood. And we've talked about this a little bit earlier. I mean, we're gonna rate it. So let's actually let me give you guys the link.
So, like Mr. Wizard speech.
Yeah.
How do midichlorians work? Well,
this ballot has 3 questions on it.
Your
How do you rate the
blood.
scenes with the Jedi Council? How do you rate the political scenes? And then how do you rate the introduction of midichlorians? And we're going to average all of this together to figure out how good this part of the movie is. Because, again, it's like it goes up and down so much, like within a section. So while we're just on Coruscant, so much happens. There's the link for the poll. Yeah. Jenny, how would you rate these things? Like, what do you think about midichlorians?
I mean, I had given this section that you broken overall a 6. I mean, breaking it out further, I mean, yeah, the midichlorians. I mean, I'd give like a 1. I didn't care for that at all. Again, even though I've come to like accept them, I don't know. I just don't like it. Don't like it.
Yeah.
So midichlorians, I'm giving a 1.
What about the Jedi Council and the political scenes?
Yeah, I'd give them both I'll give the Jedi Council a 6. I'll go up to a 7 for the political scenes. I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool. Like, it was again, the effects and everything, setting up the galactic, like just imagining, like our political system on a galactic level, that huge, massive room with all of them in the floating, little floating things that, I like it. I dig it. Yeah, I don't know. Again, the political stuff was so boring to me when I first saw it. But again, just because of all the information I have filled in now with the Clone Wars and whatnot, I've become more interested in the politics of everything recently. So I'll give it a 7.
Yeah. How about you, Miko?
Okay, so the Jedi Council and the Galactic Senate stuff, I both gave an 8. Because of the fact that it's all just so interesting to me, and it adds more depth to this movie, which I wish could have happened in the first hour. But the midichlorian scene I gave a 5 because I didn't really care much about it initially, but like Jenny said, with everything that's happened with the Clone Wars and Mandalorian and Rebels, I've learned to just sort of accept it.
Yeah, totally. How about you, Ryan?
I gave what did it show me? I think I gave the council stuff like a 6 because it's fun to see. They make all the council guys look different, which is fun. They're not just like all. What if it was all just a bunch of Yodas? That'd be weird. Could have been.
That'd be a good sitcom.
But bunch of Yodas.
Yeah.
I've got
bunch of Yodas. You got Jenny's halfway there.
I've got a bunch of Yodas.
I like the political stuff. I think the Senate looks cool. Those weird pods that they ride. Who's driving those? Who decides where they go and how close they get? Is it sort of like with Zoom where it's like it shows the person who's talking? They get closer. I don't know. I think that I don't even know the guy's name. Ian
McDermott.
Yeah, I think he's doing so much and making it look easy that it's very easy to like overlook how actually great he is.
He's
most of these movies.
Yeah,
he's
kind of
so
underrated.
good. He's so good.
because he is lying, and you know he's lying, but he does a good job at it. Because that's tough to do, I think. Where it's like, wink, you know I'm bad, but I'm sort
Right.
of like pulling off like he seems. Even though, and he's like smiling while he's doing it, and he's still got a little voice. You know he's doing bad, but you're like, I can see falling for that.
Yeah, you get it. Like, you get why people didn't, or why they believed him, or why they were deceived. Like, he does a very good job of, like, playing that like he knows we already know. Like, this is not going to be some big twist, and like we know who he is. But yeah, he portrays the darks kind of with very like just. They do it with very quick little like shots and looks and winks, and, you know, because again, acknowledging that the audience does already know this, but he does a really good job of almost being, I wouldn't go as far as saying lovable, but like he's got kind of an affectionate uncle kind of, you know, relationship with like Padme and, you know, the other and the Jedi and whatnot. So he's great.
Joe says in chat, how many of you spotted E.T.'s family? That's something I pointed out to Andy as well. I love that.
I did.
And there's like Wookiees there. Just seeing like all the species of the galaxy in one room. It's cool, you know? I dig it.
And one other thing that I also like that doesn't get really mentioned is I do like when Padme is doing her like queen voice. And when she is the queen and all that stuff. She's good. One thing I don't understand is that she's a democratically elected queen. Why did they elect a kid to be their like queen?
I do not know.
That's true. She's not born into it, so she's not
born into it.
How old is she? How old is she supposed to be again? Does anyone? I can't.
She's 13, I think.
Feel like 13? I thought she was older than that. I thought she was around 16 or 17. I thought I remember there was.
I don't think so.
I thought I remember hearing there was like about an 8-year age difference between her and Anakin.
Maybe. Either way, it's still
if he was 8,
weird.
she would be 16. But yeah, it's weird no matter what. But
yeah.
Anyway,
they just released a book. They just released a book called, I think it's just called Amidala.
No, it's called Queen's something.
Queen's.
No. I mean, maybe you're talking about a different one. There is one that I've heard a lot of good things about that I also want to read that is just about Queen Amidala.
Yeah.
I can't remember the title of it. Yeah. I heard it's really good. It actually like fleshes out her character a lot better. So I just wanted more from her. Like, I get that when she's queen, she's supposed to talk very like
Queen's Shadow
voice. But Queen's Shadow, yeah. But even
Queen's
when
Shadow,
she was Padme, like I don't know. Again, I don't blame Natalie Portman. The dialogue and her.
We all know Natalie Portman's a great actress, but I think she was directed to be emotionless and wooden. You know.
Yeah, I remember her watching these movies and it's like, my God, she's not great in these movies, and it's not a ding on her as an actress because she's great. But yeah, just watching, especially Attack of the Clones, like, my God, she's really not bringing it.
Like, she's got a couple moments, and I like just that the idea of a strong, powerful female, you know, like she's passionate about politics and helping people, but yeah, she just was given nothing to do, and she's really only there to be a catalyst for Anakin, and then she's
like Princess Leia gets to be fun. She's like strong and stuff, but also like seems cool to be around. Like they don't let Amidala seem. She seems nice, no personality. But like
considering she's the only female character, it's a huge disservice, in my opinion. Like, there's so much that could have been done with that character that she's just so stiff, and she has very few lines of dialogue, and she's so important to the story. And I feel like getting to know her as a person would have been really helpful to the film as a whole. And they just did not spend much time on that, and that is a bummer. But it is great to see her in the Senate chamber, like doing her thing.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
they kind of give her a little bit of that, like he keeps saying, like, you know, Palpatine slash Sidious keeps saying, she's young and she's weak, like she won't be hard to manipulate. It's like they tried to give her a moment where she kind of defies that and is like, no, I will, kind of stands up.
I like that scene.
Again, it's so it's just played with like no. I don't know. There's ways I think to make. I don't know. I can't think of any other examples, but there's ways to make a stoic character like that, or that is working within restraints to still make it good. And there's a lot you can do with your eyes. And I mean, it was just nothing.
Yeah.
I do like the scene where Palpatine comes in and he's like, "Oh, I've been nominated. It's a surprise. It's pretty good." And she's just like so defeated and just like, "I'm going back to my planet, like to just fight." Like, dude, I don't even care about what's happening right now. She's like, so it's very deflated. She gets to be sad. She doesn't get to be fun. She does get to be sad a few times.
Yeah,
she's good. Yeah,
there's a lot of subtlety in this.
She dies of
stuff.
sadness. She dies of sadness of broken heart.
That's the dumbest thing that's ever happened.
We don't have time. We don't have time. I have so much to say about that. Okay, I'm gonna give the Jedi Council scenes a 7, and the political scenes I'm gonna give that an 8. I think no, I can't. I'm giving it a 7. And the introduction of the midichlorians, I'm giving that a 1. I think that was a huge mistake. I like what they're doing with it now. It's already canon, got to keep it. But why are we making the Force feel less magical? George Lucas has said in interviews that he wanted Star Wars to be more science fiction and less fantasy. And I'm the biggest sci-fi nerd on the planet, and I think that that's definitely the wrong call. Star Wars is space fantasy. That's part of the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Let's keep it that way. We don't need to change it. Has everyone voted? Are we ready to see our results for this section?
Yes.
Okay. Coruscant. Responses are in. Oh, it's looking high. It's looking good. I think this is going to be the highest rated section of the movie so far. Although people, people hate the midichlorians. Wow. Yes, I'm going to average these individually because this is interesting.
Nobody likes that part.
Oops. Insert link. Nope.
That's one person's favorite part of the whole.
Well, one person gave the midichlorians a 10.
Okay, there you go. I'm sorry. I'm dumb. Then I apologize. It's a fun part for somebody.
It does. Wait, I have a question. For the person in chat, Mandarin Tang, who seems to be a big fan of these movies and is like defending, which I applaud you for, because at the end of the day, like, I think if you love any Star Wars movie, you can love it and don't ever let anyone else tell you. I am curious. I don't know if I am curious how old you are, and I do not mean that condescendingly. I mean, because I have found, like, I was actually shocked because, like, I'm 37, and like Jesse and I had a very similar experience of the prequels, but now that I've like.
Oh, Jenny, you're cutting in and out a little bit.
Friends, little equals don't share. Sorry.
Back. Okay, we got you back. Back up just like 30 seconds.
Okay. I was just asking, again, you don't have to answer if you don't want. The person in chat who keeps voting this movie really high, I was curious how old they are, but I don't mean that in a condescending, like, how old are you? Like, just meaning, like, if you are younger than us, and you were like a younger kid when these came out, I could actually see why you would form more of an emotional attachment and like this movie more than we did, being a little older.
Well, I've heard that from the younger generation that were like kids when these movies came out, that they grew up loving the prequels and they think that the old movies are like hokey and silly. Oh my God, Mandarin says, like, seems like every communication I have with a female, they're like, how old are you?
Oh no! I mean, I get that a lot too. Again,
I love that so much.
I was so scared to ask because I don't mean it condescendingly. Like, how old are you? I don't mean that at all. Maybe I just was curious because someone even said, and like now it's cool. Everyone is like hating on the sequels, and there's people that loved the prequels and love the Phantom Menace. They're saying how dumb and how much they hate the sequels, and like, I don't know. Maybe it just depends on when you were born, basically, whatever your favorite Star Wars movie is.
Yeah. I think that's so true though. Like nostalgia has so much to do with this. If I'd seen episode 4 as an adult instead of as a 4th grader, I wouldn't love it anywhere near as much as I do, you know? Maybe, probably not.
Like
Joe says that the 10 for the midichlorians was a joke, that it's supposed to be a 1. It's too late. You gave it a 10. You gave midichlorians a 10. You have to live with that for the rest of your life. Okay, we have results. So the scenes with the Jedi Council got a 6.75. The political scenes got a 6.8, so a little higher. Midichlorians got a 3.2, even with a joke 10. And they still got a 3.2. So the average for this is a 5.6, which is way lower than I thought this was going to get. But it's the midichlorians, man, that like bring it way down.
Yeah.
That's why I put that as a separate question, because I feel like the rest of this stuff is all so good, but the midichlorians is so bad. How do we judge that? We have to kind of judge those separately. And we get to a 5.6. So this movie is now hovering at a 4.92. We have the 2 sections left, the climax of the film and the ending. So let's get into the climax. For the voting, I've split the climax up into 3 sections because I feel like that makes the most sense. Well, 4 sections. 1, we're going to vote on the climax of the film as a whole, 1 to 10. Everything that happens, the whole final battle. And then we're going to rate the fight with Maul 1 to 10 because I feel like these separate fights are so different. I feel like they need to be rated separately. So there's the fight with Maul, there's the fight with the Gungans and the battle droids in the grassy plain, and then there's the fight in space between the Naboo pilots and the Trade Federation control ship. So we're going to rate all of those battles separately, and then the whole thing as a whole, because there's also a little bit of other stuff with like Padme capturing the Viceroy and all that. So I'm actually, as we talk about this, I'm just going to go ahead and give everyone the link so you can start voting as we're talking. And then what do you guys think of the climactic battle of this movie? Let's start with Miko.
This is the scene that I always come back to when I would pop in the DVD as a kid. This whole section of the movie, I would constantly replay. Again, lightsabers. Who doesn't love them? So I would put, of course, the duel with Maul like up here, the Naboo starfighter dogfight here, and the Gungan fight a little bit lower than that.
Yeah. I mean, the fight with Maul is unquestionably incredible, but the stuff with the starfighters and with the Gungans, there's so much luck, and it drives me crazy. Like Anakin is just getting so lucky. He's like, what does this button do? Oh, it blows up the ship. Okay. And then Jar Jar's like falling all over himself. And somehow he's like spinning a blaster around that's attached to a battle droid that's attached to his leg and hits 3 shots in a row. So either he's like a Dark Lord of the Sith, the luckiest person in the galaxy, or the movie's bad. It's one of those 3, you know?
I feel like, and I feel like this was already said, but I feel like that it makes more sense. I think Ryan said this. It makes more sense with Anakin, just because he is the chosen one. He is going to be Darth Vader in a few decades' time. But with Jar Jar, the bumbling, the blaster thing really makes me laugh in not a good way every time. But I do love those like plasma grenades that they all have. I think that was a really cool contraption that George Lucas made up.
Yeah, some of the weaponry looks really cool, and there's like some elements of interest with the way the battle is set up on the ground, where there's like the shield.
The way the battle's set up is so cool that they just did it again in that Avengers movie. It's the exact same thing. They got a shield. They're gonna come through the shield. Some guys have shields, like that they're holding. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Infinity War.
Yeah, it's pretty much
Infinity War, right?
Yeah, it looks exactly the same.
On Wakanda.
I haven't seen Infinity War.
Yes, you have, because you've seen
Yay.
this.
Out of here. Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
for me, it's like I don't know which part I like the least. I know which part I like the best. Like the fight with Maul is maybe the best fight in all of Star Wars. It's so good, and it gives me chills every time. And it's so weird that this
Yeah.
brilliant piece of filmmaking is inside of this mediocre movie, because every element of that is amazing. Like, you know, the way that they look at each other through those shields, the way like Qui-Gon's like meditating for a second when the shields are up. The lighting when they're fighting in that big open space on those little like circular platforms, jumping from platform to platform. Like, this is Jedi the way that we always wanted to see it. They made you wait until the end of the movie, and it's all the sweeter for it. I mean, this is the one part of the movie that I've always loved, and sometimes feel like maybe I like this movie more than I think I do because I love this scene so much.
I'm sure that. Go ahead, Ryan.
I classically love that part. This time, for some reason, I was like not overly thrilled.
Really?
I feel like I've maybe just seen it enough times now.
Hmm.
The sword fight, it's totally great. It's great. I love that Obi-Wan sort of, it's like, do what Obi-Wan says, not what he does, because he does lose his lightsaber, which he chastises Anakin about in the next movie. And he also, Darth Maul has more high ground than anyone has ever had on him in that last moment, and he does tries to do the exact same thing that Anakin tries to do later, which is just flip directly over him, and it works for Obi-Wan.
Why does that work? Maul's just like, whoa, oh my god, I've been cut in half. Like, why? He puts his weapon down.
He even knows what he's doing. He sees they have a little eye thing. He's like thinking about the lightsaber over there. It's weird. I love it, but it's
what?
Yeah. I think it's a little suspended belief.
Yeah, like that. That's the only.
But no, that lightsaber battle is awesome.
That's the only thing about it that I don't like, is that Maul like doesn't defend himself against that fatal blow that chops him in half. Well, not fatal because he survives, but you know.
Maybe that's the only other time that Obi-Wan uses his really fast power, and he just did it so fast.
Oh, yeah, it was slowed down for the viewer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a scene in the movie for me too. Like, I will sometimes, like, Phantom Menace is probably the one I would watch. Actually, no, Solo is the Star Wars movie I've seen the least. Phantom Menace is after that. But I will sometimes, I was obsessed. Okay, I know I'm doing a plug again, but I just finished this one. It's a little votive. I don't know if you can see it on there.
Oh my God. I love that.
It's a candle holder, but it's that battle, their silhouette. I'm doing a larger one too. It's really beautiful. And yeah, that scene where they go through like the, whatever you call it, shield general, whatever.
Yes,
and Qui-Gon quietly meditating while Maul paces back and forth anxiously and like feeding on his anger, and that kind of visual juxtaposition between the Jedi and the Sith. And I mean, it's so beautiful. And yeah, I don't know, just like the location of it with all those, like, again, I spent a lot of time looking at this scene because I've been painting that thing for 2 weeks, with those beautiful whatever tubes with the gases in them or whatever, and all these different levels. I mean, it's just and that scene where Maul sticks out the lightsaber and then the other one comes out. It's just really
I want to get into the head
fighting together is just awesome. The choreography park. Wait, what?
I was doing this on Zoom is so hard. Go ahead, Miko.
I was just gonna say I would love to get into the head of like someone who has seen the original trilogy when they were a kid, when Darth Maul's lightsabers were just, you know, I can't imagine the how mind-blowing it must have been to see a double-bladed lightsaber for the first time.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, it was so good. Yeah, because like I was really into Star Wars since 4th grade, and then this came out when I was in middle school, so like 7th or 8th grade. So I'd been into Star Wars for a few years and was like really hardcore into it. I'd read like dozens and dozens of novels. no mention anywhere of a double-bladed lightsaber, and then I'm sitting in the movie theater, and that happens, and I'm just like, whoa, shit! It's such a great moment, and I mean, Maul is just an amazing character. Like the performance is fantastic, you know, like the body language is incredible, and they got Ray Park back to do the motion capture for the Clone Wars final episode, and it's chilling. It's so good. Oh, and yeah, we put a link in chat for Jenny's Etsy store because she makes these amazing Star Wars candles. If anyone wants to check it out. Well, okay, let's get into rating this.
I'm working on a bunch of them.
There's a lot to rate here. There's several things to answer. I'm reposting the link right now. So let's start with Ryan. We have a lot of questions to answer. How do you rate the climax as a whole? And then rating the individual battles. And then everyone make sure you click that link in chat and vote, click submit so we can get your answers. What do you think, Ryan?
As a whole, I put 8. Yeah. As a whole, I put 8. I like seeing Boss Nass comes back. It's another scene right there up top of this section.
You love him.
I like how happy he gets when they sort of capitulate and say that they need his help. He loves it. He just wants them to think he's cool.
Misa like this.
Yeah, and then he's willing to like sacrifice his whole army pretty much in like a huge diversionary move that they're, you know, not supposed to win. And the Gungans have those ball things are cool. They just needed to use more of them or something. Because when Jar Jar pulls the thing down and then a bunch of them go, like they should just done that. Yeah. It is annoying to watch Jar Jar bumble his way through that. I get that it is supposed to be just funny. But if you think about it, there's no coincidences. So they were meant to meet Jar Jar. Right? There's no such thing as luck. He's skillfully maneuvering his way through that battlefield without dying and helping, doing more help than hurt.
I think that Palpatine is controlling him. It's got to be something. It's just bad. It's bad. Like that part is bad, I think.
Or I think that, you know, he's got some Jedi traits that they don't want to admit that.
Yeah, and because the Jedi look down on the Gungans, they're not even going to think about training him. But he's got the Force. Damn it,
drunken master.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
He's like trying to stumble away.
It's the only explanation. Ryan, how did you rate? How did you rate the battles, the individual battles?
Well, it's right here. The fight with Maul I gave it a 9. The Gungans thing, I gave a 6. And then I also gave a 6 to the piloting. The piloting stuff is, he does blow up the ship completely on accident. Like he's just trying to shoot those droids. Doesn't even know how to shoot. That whole part would make more sense if he was like almost like pretending to not know what he was doing. Like, I'll just sit in this cockpit. He said stay in the cockpit. Oh, I don't know what it is. Is this the trigger? Like he maybe actually like knows how to turn it on. Like, oh, it's on autopilot. I didn't know we were going to the battle. But he seems to genuinely not know what he's doing, and it is obnoxious. And in the way during the pod race, when he's sort of expertly doing things, he's quiet about it, and that makes it work, I think, in a way where when he's in the starfighter, he's like, huh? Whoa, this is crazy. I'm going to fly expertly into the hangar somehow, accidentally shoot the whole ship, then get out of there. It's dumb.
Now this is pod racing.
Yeah.
Miko, what are your ratings?
So the climax as a whole, I think I gave it a 9. The battle with Maul a 10. The Gungan battle a 7, and the Naboo Star pilot an 8.
So you're pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Jenny?
I gave it an 8. This is my favorite part of the movie overall. Like overall, I realized like I genuinely enjoyed the end of the movie. So yeah, 8 overall. I gave a 10 for the fight with Maul. I love that scene, and it grows on me even more and more every time I see it. I gave the gun battle a 6. I don't find it that interesting. Not one of my favorite battles, but it has its moment. I don't know, whatever. I gave it a 6. And I actually rated the space battle a 5, slightly lower, just because I can't stand Anakin. I found that so annoying. Like, oh, that's a trick. I just don't like it, and it ruined that space battle for me. And him just happening to shoot the luck, everything you guys said, it bothers me. So
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, the climax as a whole is a really hard question, I think, because I love the Maul fight so much. I feel like the overall experience for me is like what I think about the whole movie. It's like a 6. The fight with Maul is like a 12 out of 10. But like the only thing that bothers me about it is that Maul like doesn't block that last blow. So I'll give it a 10 out of 10 just to be fair. The Gungan battle is I really don't like. I mean, there's some visual elements that are cool about it, but it's like you're watching one CG army fight another CG army on a real grass field, and it just doesn't do it for me really at all. So I'm gonna give that a 2.
Why would anyone who had laser guns fight in a big open field? It doesn't make any sense strategically.
Yeah. And the space battle, I can't stand how accidental it is. So I'm gonna give that a 2 as well. So yeah, so that's it. So I have like a 10 and 2 2s, but then I'm giving the whole climax a 6 because that lightsaber fight is so good. I can't go lower than a 6 for the whole thing. All right, people. Voting is closed. Let's see what we got. I want to see these numbers. This is very satisfying for me. Like seeing actual numbers is really satisfying.
Also, Anakin blows up that ship. There's at least some people that are not droids on that ship, and he killed them. Kid.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I know it's war, but
okay. So I'm just going to do these individually too because these numbers are all over the place. So the climax as a whole, we've given a 7.5 on average. So then the Maul fight is almost 10s across the board. One person gave it a 7, so it got a 9.7. That's by far the most loved moment of this movie is that fight with Maul. We now have the numbers to prove it. The Gungan battle got a 4.1. Sounds about right. And the space battle got a 4.5. So let's look at that all together. Insert function. Boom. So altogether got a 6.5. Which is interesting because as a whole, we rated the climax as a 7.5. But when you plug in all the numbers of how we feel about the individual segments, it gets a 6.5. So I think that Maul's battle is really like people like this whole last section more than they like the individual parts because of the fight with Maul. That's really interesting. I feel like we've just accomplished something great, y'all.
Oh yeah.
And that brings us from a 4.7 to a 5.2.
I mentioned the soundtrack. That Duel of the Fates.
Yes. Oh. So true. Oh, the soundtrack is insanely good.
The music. That deserves mention. That Duel of the Fates is awesome. Like that's part of why I love that battle. Just that the Duel of the Fates music alone was phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we have one section to go. I am putting the new final poll in chat. So there's 2 questions on this. We're going to look at the finale of the movie from 2 different angles. One is wrapping up the stories with the Jedi.
I never submitted my stakes from the last one.
You didn't submit your last one?
I didn't press the button.
Oh no! It's too late. It's lost forever.
That's okay.
So we're going to look at two different questions for this last section. One is the Jedi story is wrapping up. So Obi-Wan takes Anakin as his Padawan, and then Qui-Gon's funeral. So how do we feel about the Jedi stories, how they ended? And then we got to talk about the celebration on Naboo. Just, I know it's a short sequence, but it's very important. It is the last sequence of the movie. So how do we feel about that? So let's start with the Jedi stuff. I mean, Qui-Gon's funeral is gorgeous. I mean, that is one of my favorite scenes in the movie for sure.
And that shot of after Mace Windu says, which one was the story, the master or the apprentice? And that shot of Palpatine just like his profile does, just so good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the funeral music is amazing.
That brought up
yeah, so good.
Question for me.
Yep.
Which is
that was
the Jedi spend all of these movies sensing each other's presence from various distances. In this scene, the entire Jedi Council is in the same room with the Sith Lord that they are looking for. They are feet away from him, and they're literally talking about him. Like, I wonder who he is. And they could literally reach out and touch him, but they can't sense evil? I don't know. I don't know if that's explained in a book somewhere. It doesn't make sense to me.
The Shroud of the Dark Side.
Well, I think that
Shroud of the Dark.
I think what they were implying is that the Jedi have lost touch with the Force. That they can't tell that they're where the Sith Lord is, and they're embarrassed by that. They've been hiding that fact. They kind of imply that in the third movie. And I love that. I feel like Palpatine is just really good at hiding in plain sight, and that's part of his brilliance.
Yeah,
that is true. Yoda also
they
says
definitely addressed
earlier
that.
he. Okay, Jenny, I want to hear.
Oh, sorry. I can't tell if I'm interrupting or not. There's a little bit of delay.
I know it's the delay.
I feel like they addressed that in Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clones. Like they bring it up, like that. Yeah, that they're kind of embarrassed. Like, how could we have not seen that? Like how. And they start like sensing something is off. Like they mentioned several times, but they can't pinpoint it. And yeah, I think it's just him being so good at hiding in plain sight and clouding their judgment from it.
Yeah.
And in this, like Yoda says, I get maybe that this is during this part that like Anakin's future is clouded, and that's one of the problems is that he can't see. Normally, you'd be able to see something. I guess the Sith just clouds their view.
Yeah, I always wondered if it was clouded because Palpatine was clouding it, or because there was too many paths that Anakin could go down, and it was impossible to see which would happen. I think either way is awesome, you know? Either way is really cool. Like, I really like this stuff a lot, you know? And it's so fun to now be far enough away from the disappointment of seeing this movie for the first time that I can fully embrace what I do like about it. And I think it ends really strong, you know? Like, I think the celebration is great. It's so fun. It's so good. Yeah, John Williams just killing it with all the music in the last like third of the movie. Like Boss Nass holding up that orb, screaming peace. It's great. It like fills me with joy.
I love Boss Nass.
It felt very Star Wars, you know, the end of A New Hope and Return of the Jedi. But someone said in chat, I don't see it up there anymore, about that he thought it should have ended on that shot of Palpatine's face, which I kind of like that too. That being the last shot with them talking about how he's there, and then that just fading out would have been really, really cool. Yeah. They almost could have done that. They could have done the celebration scene first, but then still ended on that, because I like the celebration scene.
That's fascinating.
Everything. It was beautiful.
And like play a little bit of the Emperor's theme right before going into like into the Star Wars theme on the credits. That could have been cool. I like that too. Oh, interesting, Adam. I'll have to check out that book, Plagueis.
Yeah.
I keep seeing rumors that Darth Plagueis is going to show up on screen somewhere. I would love that. I think that'd be so cool. Is there anything we don't like about the ending stuff? Because I'm pretty into it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't help but compare that final celebration scene with the final scene in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, it's pretty solid for me.
Sam says if the celebration came first, he'd give it a
Like that
7 or an
shot.
8, but as it is, he's rating it low. That's interesting. Tell us why. Justin thought the
Yeah.
orb, the peace orb, was cheesy. As a lifelong Mario player, grabbing an orb for victory just feels right to me. All right.
Gungans love orbs. Everyone knows this
I
about
like the
Gungans.
shot of
Their favorite
Obi-Wan
thing.
with the hood.
Yeah. Yeah, Jenny, I totally love
the
that
scene
shot.
with Obi-Wan with the hood, which I remember from the previews, when he has and he kind of looks over at Anakin and talks about training him. I thought that was foreshadowing his older, because we kind of meet him cloak up. I liked that shot a lot too. I thought it was pretty solid ending.
Yeah. Well, shall we put some numbers to it?
I can't think of anything I hate from the ending.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
neither. I really like it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
repost this last link. Let's go to Miko. What are your ratings? So there's 2 things to rate here: the conclusion of the stories with the Jedi, and then the celebration.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it 9 across the board. Yeah, 9 across the board. Just because, yeah, it's all very, very solid stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Ryan?
I think I gave it 8 because it's good. I don't have a problem with it, but I don't think it was, didn't like elevate anything for me. I think they stuck the landing. I could have given it a 9, but I left it at an 8.
How about you, Jenny?
I like the idea of switching it around, but I could see what they did where they ended the way they ended A New Hope. Pretty much kind of the same sort of shot, but the funeral did mirror Jedi. So they could have done both. They could have done it either way.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. I think it's crazy how they burn people and they watch that. That's like a weird.
Yeah, I mean, they're at like a barbecue, but they're cooking Qui-Gon Jinn.
And they're all standing really close.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of hair. Just I don't think it doesn't seem pleasant.
Like, when I die, I do not want all my friends to smell me burning.
Yeah.
Oh.
I want that
Just
noted.
stand back at least.
Yeah.
Stand back a little ways. It's not. Don't put me inside a thing. I don't know what it.
Yeah. What about you, Jenny? What do you rate it? We got a frozen Jenny. Oh, there she is.
No.
She's
Is
back.
it neat?
There you go. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Jenny.
Oh, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I gave it an 8 and a 7, an 8 for the Jedi thing because I love that moment with Anakin and I like that last shot of Palpatine. I gave the celebration a 7. Yeah, because again, it's I can't think of anything really wrong with it. I just there's nothing that's really made me like love this movie. I don't think it was phenomenal ending like compared to other movies. So 7 and an 8 respectively.
Yeah. I when I watch this movie, I'm like wondering like how many people in the audience are putting it together that Palpatine and Sidious are the same person, you know? Like, I love that so much. I love that it's never really truly revealed in this movie that they're the same man, but it's obvious. And that shot at the end, when at the end of the funeral, where you look at Palpatine and there's like a hint of the Emperor's theme in there, or like Vader's theme or something. I think it's the Emperor's theme. It's like, that is kind of the acknowledgement that the filmmaker knows that this is the same person, you know? And I think that that's really artfully done. I think the whole discussion about, you know, who was destroyed, the Master of the Apprentice, always two there are, like, this is great core Star Wars material. Like, you know, acknowledging the rule of two. Anakin willfully refusing to Obi-Wan willfully like refusing Yoda's request to not train Anakin, I think is really powerful, because we know that Anakin's training is like in part of why he turns to the dark side, you know? Obi-Wan was not ready to take on a Padawan. he took him on too young. Like Obi-Wan's a great guy, he's a great Jedi, but he didn't. I mean, arguably, he didn't do the best job as training Anakin. So all this is just so good, and I love the celebration too. I just think it's super fun. I'm going 10s across the board for this. Okay, has everyone voted? Everyone said their piece. We're gonna close.
Let me make sure. Yeah, I hit submit. Okay.
Everyone hit submit. We're gonna close voting.
Yes, I think I already did it.
Okay, awesome. All right, voting
I
is
forgot to put on,
closed. We got a
this
lot
t-shirt that
of really high numbers here, and we can just average all this together because they're all pretty. The numbers are pretty consistent. Oh no, I'm wrong. People did not like the peace celebration anywhere near as much as they liked the Jedi stuff. So we're going to do these numbers separately.
Sebulba is my co-pilot. I love it.
it's backwards.
Oh, you got your
So they
shirt.
did-
Oh my
they did-
God, you still have it.
These aren't available. Yeah, I forgot that it was literally like sitting in a bag a few feet from me. so
I
thought I'd
remember
throw it in.
that.
Yeah, Ryan wore that to the very first Sci-Fi on Trial podcast recording like 5 years ago.
I remember that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a while, I did a
I'd be
comedic
curious
character
to
that
listen to that one.
Yeah, we did a very different
See how
format.
it
Yeah.
compares to how we feel now.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, our numbers are
I do
in.
wanna listen to that.
So the Jedi stuff, the funeral, people loved that. That got an 8.6. The peace celebration, people did not like as much. That got a 5.1. So this averaged out.
Whoa, that's low.
It is low. It's surprisingly low. People don't like those CG orbs, I guess. So this section got a 6.8. And now we're about to get the final number. We were sitting at a 5.2. The final rating for Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, according to so much science and math and all that, is 5.4. It gets a 5.4.
Hey.
Woo!
That's low.
It's low. It's lower than I thought. So
That's low.
Just above a fail.
yeah, Jenny and Miko gets to 6, Ryan gets to 7, I guess to 6.2, Chat gets to 3. So, but the funny thing is the average of all of our guesses was a 5.6, which is almost exactly what we ended up at 5.4. So that's really interesting. We could have saved 3 hours. But we wouldn't have been sure. I just invalidated this
We had to
entire
know.
format. I'm sorry. Well, this was amazing, everybody. I would love some feedback on the format. This definitely went longer than I had anticipated. So you can always leave comments. I'm going to leave this video up if you want to leave comments with feedback, or you can reach out to me on Discord. Let me know. Yeah, this was amazing. Anyone have any final thoughts about Episode 1? I know we could talk Star Wars for years. There's so much more to say, but I feel like we really did a good job about...
Coming up over there in the UK.
Say again.
I said the sun is probably coming up over there in the UK, isn't it? At this point.
Yeah, it's like almost 5:30.
Wow,
That's not bad.
that's insane.
I'm gonna go back to bed after this.
How does 5.4 feel to the chat and to our panelists? Does that feel right for this movie, based off of everything we've discussed?
No,
I think so.
I do not think. I feel like that feels low.
I
feel like it feels low.
that feels low for me too.
Yeah.
Just because like
Too high.
yeah, I mean, especially with now, with the resurgence of Star Wars and Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau fixing everything, it all just sort of makes sense now. And and oh my God, have you guys seen that Dave Filoni sort of picking apart the Duel of the Fates?
It's amazing. Yeah, I've seen that.
No.
Yeah.
And so in Disney Gallery for Mandalorian season 1,
Yeah.
they have this roundtable discussion, and Dave Filoni just basically like picks apart the reasoning behind the Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul duel, and how it all sort of culminates and relates to just the lore in sort of this really big, grandiose sort of way, and it's incredible.
Yeah,
And-
it's amazing. He made me like the whole Episode 1 better with his description. It was really powerful. I also feel like
Mhm.
5.4 is low, but what I love about it is that like we collected so much data, you know, and
Yeah.
the opinions on this movie are so widely disparate. Like some people love some sections of this movie and hate others, and some people feel the reverse. Like this movie just did not hit humans similarly, you know, like it hit every person differently. And it's such a weird movie because of that, you know, like Star Wars is such a big part of our lives and so important to us. And this movie is just so, the way it was received is so strange. And I just love that we just ended up kind of in the middle at the end, you know, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like an election. Do you guys think that do you think that maybe Qui-Gon knew he was going to die? I mean, he doesn't sacrifice himself the way that Ben does in A New Hope, but it is sort of similar where they almost, you know, get killed in front of their apprentice. Not that Luke's like Ben's apprentice, but sort of. It's a mirrored, kind of a mirrored moment, I feel like.
Yeah.
Mm.
We need a Yaddle spinoff. That's so true. Who thinks that Grogu is the child of Yoda and Yaddle? Raise your hands. Just me?
No, I don't want it. I don't want
It's
it.
too obvious.
Yeah.
But
Don't
okay,
lie.
here's the thing. Mandalorian as a show keeps giving us the most obvious answer and making it feel great. So why not? You know? That's what I say.
That's true.
Okay, well, my goal.
I have faith. If Dave Filoni says it so, I'll probably like it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It does fit the
He
timeline.
tells me what I like now, and it works out.
Oh my God. Star Wars Episode 10, Yoda and Yaddle's sex tape. Oh, please no.
No.
Is it CG or practical effects?
All
right, let's wrap this up on that note. This was amazing. You guys are so generous to give us 3 hours of your time. Thank you so much. I had a blast. My goal is to do this for all of the Star Wars movies and have a definitive ranking for all of them. And yeah, I'm planning on being here next week doing episode 2, Attack of the Clones. We have a group of space nerds who are all involved, and we're going to reach out and see who's available. But I'll be here with some people, not sure who, hopefully some of these people. And we'll be talking about episode 2 next week. Same time, same place, 6:30 p.m. Yeah, we spent 3 hours talking about a 2-hour movie. I feel like that is appropriate. But yeah,
talking about it longer than the length of the movie.
Yeah, we did good. So Jenny, Ryan, Miko, thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate you guys. I made end credits to thank my channel members. I'm going to roll them right now. I'm very excited about it. But thank you all so much. Have an amazing rest of your night. Until next time, stay nerdy out there. Bye.
Goodbye.